We're shortly bringing you an update on the National Health Insurance case in the Constitutional Court. Judgment has been reserved in that case, and we know it started 2 days ago, but it looks as though it's going to wrap up fairly soon. We're going to touch base with our SABC news reporter in just a short while, and that's been a very interesting case. I mean, if you've been watching the arguments that have been unfolding in court, then I'd love to hear from you on what was put forward, what we thought was unusual. And when I say we, I'm talking about a couple of listeners and me, because one of you called in to speak about this the other day. The parameters of the case are very interesting because it's gone before the Constitutional Courts because specifically the Board of Healthcare Funders and the Western Cape government have said there wasn't adequate consultation over this. And so they took Parliament to court over this. And Parliament has been fighting back in court, arguing its case, saying it did actually engage in a widespread attempt to hear the voices of as many people as possible. It spent millions of rands doing this. But another question arose about the pricing of the NHI. Judge Stephen Majid actually took the line where he questioned government at length about the issue of the cost of instituting the NHI. And of course, that is a very difficult question to answer because there hasn't been a detailed kind of fiscal breakdown of what it's going to cost. And the government lawyer put forward that it's very, very difficult to be able to judge over a period of 25 years what it's going to cost. And that is what makes it so difficult to actually put a number to the NHI. So we'll speak to Nosipho Radebe in just a short while, our SABC reporter, to recap some of those arguments so that you know exactly what was said in court. After 10, we're bringing you updates on the strange weather we've been having. It's really caused chaos in many parts of the country. I'm hoping we're at the tail end of this now, but we'll touch base with our reporters in the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape to find out how it's looking today, and we'll get an update as well on all the disaster management relief that has been brought to bear in all of these areas, because it really has been a very, very unwelcome arrival of winter as we transition right now. And so I think authorities across the country have just been doing their best to keep their heads above water, keep people in their municipalities as safe as possible under the circumstances. But of course, you know, municipalities are strained. It's not easy. And so aid organizations like Gift of the Givers have been involved as well. What about this whole issue of Johannesburg allegedly being bankrupt? Helen Ziller, the DA leader, holding a media briefing yesterday, and she had come into possession of a letter that the finance minister, Enoch Godongwana, had sent through to the city of Johannesburg to say, if you do not get your fiscal house in order, there are going to be consequences. You are not going to get your usual budget from Treasury. Now, Johannesburg needs that 8 billion rand quite desperately, right? As it is, many services are not being delivered at all. There are some services that are being delivered in part. If you drive through the city of Joburg, the provincial sport right now is actually avoiding potholes. That's what it's become. You've got people coming in, the roads agency, you've got repairs being made, being half made. You've got people driving into massive potholes. There's sinkholes in parts of the city. That's not to speak of all the other services that we're not receiving regularly, or we're not receiving to the particular standard that we are paying for. And tell me what it means to you to have actually heard with a definitive kind of letter behind it yesterday, that the city of Joburg is in big trouble. We kind of knew that anecdotally, I would say. But even so, we had hoped the situation wasn't as bad as it was. If the finance minister is writing to the city of Joburg and telling the city to get its house in order, failing which it's not going to get the budget it needs, we are all who live in Johannesburg in serious trouble. So you are more than welcome to weigh in on that issue with me. And then you'll remember it's Africa Month. We're focusing on some of the interesting cultural exports from Africa. One of them has to be renowned novelist and poet Zakes Mda. He is a beloved writer, and he's been involved in a very interesting project, writing a story that's going to be turned into one of the biggest films that's ever been made in South Africa. When I hear this, it's just music to my ears, because it means the local film industry is going to boom for a time anyway. They're spending 300 million rand on putting this feature together, which means jobs will be created. Hopefully there'll be mentorship programs, and this will be an opportunity for South Africa to showcase its incredible facilities from a film point of view. There are wonderful facilities in the country. We're not making full use of them because our film industry is not booming, but this is going to be a wonderful initiative. So it sounds very very, very intriguing, and it's drawing in the characters. This feature's drawing in the characters of real-life jazz legends Miriam Makeba, Mama Africa, and Hugh Masekela. So we're going to talk to Zegsum Da just after 11 o'clock today. Right now, though, it is 14 minutes past 9. Time to get your daily update from Nosipho Khadebe, our SABC economics reporter. It was supposed to be day 3 in court, as I said, for government and 2 entities challenging Parliament in the Constitutional Court over the National Health Insurance. We know that the Board of Health Funders in the Western Cape Province maintain that inadequate consultation took place over the NHI. Parliament, of course, defended itself. It says it spent millions on ensuring tens of thousands of submissions were heard. SABC News reporter Nosipho Khadebe has been keeping a very close eye on proceedings. She joins us now with an update. Nosipho, I understand, first of all, that judgment has been reserved in this case, so you're not going to court for a third day today.
Indeed, Joanne. A very good morning to you and to the listeners. Judgment has been reserved in the matter around the Western Cape government, I beg your pardon, challenging the process or the parliamentary process around the NHI. And yesterday we heard from their legal representative, Advocate Jeff Budlender, around what exactly were they asking the court for and what exactly was their grievance. And from what we heard in court yesterday was that 2 of the 9 provinces, the process around public participation in the NHI, that in 2 of those provinces, this failed fundamentally as was required by law. So Advocate Jeff Budlender outlined that, in the Gauteng province, there was no sort of indication or evidence showing that, these public hearings took place, and it wasn't communicated at the select committee. Now, the justices, Justice Rogers in particular, pressed on this issue during when they were probing further around the submissions by Advocate Budlender. And he also pointed out, that there's this sort of obscurity around Gauteng and what happened there and whether the select committee was indeed present at these hearings that were said to have taken place. The minister himself also coming up in the proceedings the minister himself had also admitted that, he wasn't quite sure, but he was confident that some, these hearings had actually taken place. And then there was also the issue of what happened in the Western Cape, where what happened in the Western Cape was accused of being a rubber stamp sort of process when it came to public participation or the process around the NHI. And Advocate Budlender just outlining, that the Western Cape government had asked for extra time because there were these rigid time frames that were put in place. And when they had asked for some extra time or just some leeway around their submissions, it was too rigid, the sort of response that they got from Parliament, and the rush really was from Parliament to get this bill over the line before Parliament's end of term in 2023.
Right.
And so they raised this concern in court yesterday.
How long had the residents actually been given to air their concerns, Nosipho?
My understanding was that they had been given the same amount of time as what was given in the other provinces. I'm not too sure on the exact number of days, but these timeframes were, put out first. One timeline was put out first, and then a new revised one was put out, in which they say, Parliament had said that the Western Cape government had time to, raise this during that process, and which they did not raise. And we also heard from Budlender saying that, they were actually kind of in the dark about this because a representative who had this knowledge hadn't, given it to the appropriate people who would have then taken it up. So it was a back and forth of who, did what, who said what, and that's why, and that they pointed out in court yesterday that, this is where the sort of confusion came up during that process.
And I see that this came up the previous day as well, the questions of whether citizens simply had the right to be heard on NHI or whether their concerns should have actually influenced NHI policy going forward.
So certainly this was the main contention that, and that's what the Western Cape government had actually raised yesterday, was that, look, they felt they were the only province that actually went through the actual legislation clause by clause and had ensured, that they had made submissions. And they felt that their submissions, even though they had meticulously gone through this legislation, were then sort of left to the side or brushed off just because there was this rush, they say, to push through the legislation before a certain date, before a certain time, or even though Parliament actually has, the leeway to be able to deal with this process in another year.
And do we have any idea when a judgment will be handed down, Nosipho?
As of right now, no, we don't have the details of when the judgment will come out. But of course, yes, the matter had been set down for 2 days, or 3 days rather, and then in the end, we managed to get through submissions in 2.
All right. Thank you so much for putting us in the picture. You've done a great job of keeping us very, very in touch with what has gone on in the Constitutional Court in regards to this the story over the last few days. Thank you for that comprehensive coverage. Our SABC economics reporter Nosipho Khadebe filling us in on the latest development in the NHI case in the Constitutional Court. Judgment reserved there. At this point, we have no idea when it'll be handed down.
When you listen to me, I feel important. When you hug me, I feel safe. When you talk with me, I learn.
Your love and attention helps your child grow strong and confident. Listen, comfort, and connect with them, because every child deserves to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Is your business struggling with cash flow, job losses, or low productivity? You're not alone. Productivity SA's Business Turnaround and Recovery Program provides expert turnaround strategies to restructure operations, save jobs, and boost growth. Get practical tools like early warning systems, performance improvement plans, and access to productivity champions. Visit productivitysa.co.za or call 011-848-5318 to apply now. Your recovery starts here.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
Yeah, we're taking your calls, listening to your voice notes here on the Daily Discourse on SAfm. And Paul giving us some background music there to get us through the voice notes. All right, let's listen in. Some of your voice notes are coming in, and we're standing by to take your calls as well. I want to listen to one of your voice notes on the storm.
Good morning, Sis Joanne. Mbongo Sondisa Mbuyisa ye. Sis Joanne, Western Cape government should be busy unblocking drains now. It's winter, and we all know that the rain in Cape Town during winter, it does not rain. It buckets when it rains there. It pours. Can they please unblock the drains now before winter? Secondly, if like I was like a Zimbabweans, these million Zimbabweans who are living in South Africa should just write open letter, approach Trump to help you, or Zimbabweans. SADC is defeated. It's a toothless dog. Only Trump can help the situation in Zimbabwe.
Good point about the issue of stormwater drains. We have exactly the same problems in Johannesburg, that they are not cleaned often, and as a result, when there's a storm, especially the electric storms we have here on the Highveld, they often overflow, and the drainage down the roads makes the roads really dangerous to pass. And the issue of Trump helping, I don't know if he would. I think he's got a select group of people that he intends to help, unless he has something to gain from the country that he is dealing with. Look, for example, at the people who are being sent to countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and so on. People who are being people from from South America in particular that he wants to deport. He sends them to various African countries, and I think there is a benefit for those countries that are playing along. Whether black Zimbabweans will be welcomed into the United States at this stage, I think the jury's out on that one. Let's listen to your comments on Joburg finances.
Hi, Jojo. Jojo, a world-class country like Joburg, are we in calamity concerning finance? Remind me again, please, Jojo, who voted ANC in to take over Gauteng, especially Joburg? So is it not for those people who voted Joburg rulers now to be responsible because they shot themselves in the foot? Pepilon Eldos.
Thank you, Pepilon. Yeah, I wonder about the leadership here, and we've had so many different guards, that have come through the system, and the changing of the guard happens often here in the city of Joburg, and yet we have no one who's able to seemingly run the city properly. We've got several parties in a coalition. No matter who it is who joins those coalitions, they just do not seem to be able to make Johannesburg work.
Morning, this is Clyde. It looks like now, because Zilla said something about Joburg being bankrupt and stuff, now it's gaining traction, you see. And we're seeing that the finance minister wrote to Dada Morero or wants to have a meeting with him, things like that. So, but these are other things that have been happening anyway, So now it just took Zilla to open her mouth. Now this thing is getting some traction.
I think what made the difference is that she had a media briefing yesterday, and a lot of people paid attention to that media briefing. But I think we've known for a long time that the problems were there. I think what is more important is this letter that's come to light, because that really tells us about the state of Joburg's finances, apart from what Helen Zille and even other politicians have had to say. One of you commenting on the Western Cape's drain issue.
Mr. Sunduza, who's phoning from Cape Town, he must know they've already been cleaned in Khayelitsha. Harare and Makaya, what trains have been cleaned. They are busy. Remember, Cape Town is too big. They always do that before winter. It's not like Joburg, Cape Town. Please don't talk bad about Cape Town. They've already cleaned them in Khayelitsha. In Harare, Makaya, and Guyasa. I don't know where do you stay in Cape Town. But they've been cleaned already, and they are busy because Cape Town is too big. Pastor Cape Town.
Pastor, thank you very much for clearing that up for us. Let's take some of your calls. Sydney in Bushbuck Ridge. Sydney, good morning to you. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Sister Joanne. So I'm Sydney, the labor in Akonu, Bushbuck Ridge.
Yes.
We are listening to you in the school library, and in fact in the sector, in the Department of Education. Yes, my sister, I've said this maybe today it might be for the third time. In the context of national dialogue, I bring in the Bella Act. Can we have a further discussions about language of learning in schools? It worries me, it worries many, especially in the primary schools, even to secondaries. The language of learning in our country of 11 languages, it's fine, it's okay. Even the decisions taken, signed on, I don't dispute that. It's not for me to say yes or no. But it worries, it's some element of worrying when we teach mathematics in ethnic languages, which is not wrong. I'm not saying it is wrong. But can we further deliberate on that one? Is it fine really? Is it okay? Learning math, natural science and technology in ethnic languages or tribal languages. Like for instance, here in the school I am, we have two ethnic languages, Sepedi and Sitsonga.
Right.
What is truly reflecting today, we have separated the learners based on their ethnic language or their tribal group. The Sotho speaking, they'll learn mathematics in their Sesotho. The Tsonga, they'll learn the same content, but in the expression of Setsonga, which is not wrong. But is this what we want in the modern South Africa? So that's why I'm bringing this one to authorities, professionals. Where is the cohesion here? It means learners will develop according to their tribal language or their ethnic language. I can no longer conduct yes, madam.
So sorry, Sydney. I just want to ask. I mean, you're raising a hugely important question here because we always focus very much on the rights of learners to learn in their mother tongue, right? Which is the best way for young people to learn. But at the same time, you're right. It does create that kind of division. But is it any different from splitting the kids who go and choose Afrikaans as an option, the kids who choose Zulu as an option? Is it? I mean. Isn't it just part of how we navigate languages in this country, Sydney?
That's why I'm saying, can we go back to the international dialogue, discussing this, or in 10 years' time, where will this take us to? As much as we are saying we're preparing our learners to be competent, even globally, there's nothing wrong in what we're doing. But can we go further and look deep into this? Because at the same time, according to me, not anyone else, it seems it's somehow promoting tribalism, ethnicism. The Tsongas will stand at their own corner. The Sothos, the Swazis, the Zulus, and so on and so on.
Are you finding that in your school, Sydney, that children are staying within their language groups because...
It is practically here in the school and in Powerline Primary, because we have the Sothos speaking and the Tsonga speaking. Even when we assess them, the Sothos must go to their own class, the Tsongas must go to their own class on the same content. It's just that each language group will express the answering according to their language. It worries me.
Yeah.
It's not promoting tribalism in my own. If others can dispute this, it's fine. I'll listen to them. But practical, what I see, we say the Tsongas go this side, the Sothos go that side, but the same content. It worries me. Is this South Africa that we want? That you will develop according to your language group or your tribal language or an ethnic group? Let's find something that can bring cohesion. I think that is best.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you very much for that call. I mean, because I've been out of the school situation for a while, I don't actually know how it works, especially where one is talking about giving children access to their various languages. Could this be an unintended consequence? Are you experiencing this in your school? Are you experiencing this if you're a teacher? Are you experiencing this if you have children in school right now, or you interact with children who go to school? Are there divisions along language lines? Because, of course, once you're talking about language, you're talking about culture as well. And so that makes the divide even greater at times. I'd love a call on that from you. Right now, it is 9:30. Time to catch up on your latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks, Joanne. In the headlines, National Coloured Congress leader Fadil Adams has arrived at the Pinetown Magistrates Court, west of Durban, where he's set to appear this morning. Residents in areas in the Gamtoos Valley in the Eastern Cape have been requested to evacuate after the Kucha Dam exceeded its capacity, posing a serious flood risk to communities. And a team of researchers at the University of Cape Town has developed a landmark artificial intelligence language model specifically trained on South Africa's 11 official written languages. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two athletes at the height of their powers fight for more than victory. They fight for the fight itself. Zakir Badat, 8 wins, all finishes. Zico Makangela, 5 wins, 5 knockouts. Champion and former champion collide in Africa's biggest welterweight championship fight. EFC 133, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm. Weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
9:32 on the Daily Discourse with me, Joanne Joseph, and taking your calls on the program right now. Lowered in Alberton is on the line to us. Good morning, Lowered.
Miss Joanne, good morning, my sister.
Go for it. Yes, what's on your mind?
Good. No, thanks a lot. I want to talk about the repatriation. I want to applaud Nigeria for demonstrating efforts to repatriate its citizens who are in the diaspora, notably in South Africa, although they are doing it grudgingly. Because one of their Senate members has mentioned that this is causing diplomatic tensions, and then it's going to be bad for trade and aviation and all of those. But South Africa cannot be subjected to blackmailing by its fellow African countries pertaining the inevitable repatriation of their very own citizens who are in South Africa. Because hypothetically, my sister, no parent should be proud when his or her biological child is being raised by someone else on a permanent adoption basis.
SAfm music.
So if the diplomatic fallout can occur, it is well and good on my side, because South Africa cannot be subjected to act dance on this situation, because it is unpalatable according to my voice, my point of view, Joanne.
All right, thank you very much for sharing that, Lowered. And Lowered saying to us, he hails Nigeria's efforts to actually repatriate its citizens to that country who have not been in this country legally. And I think, I tend to agree with that, because this cannot be a problem that we deal with alone, right? The president was also addressing this with the Mozambican leader the other day, that we need the help of other African countries who have citizens in our country who may not be here lawfully to actually repatriate their citizens and give them a better life in the first place. You've created certain circumstances in your country that make it very difficult for people to live there and to want to stay there. Nobody really wants to leave their home, but sometimes people leave out of choice because, the circumstances are just so horrendous in their own countries, and they want to give their children a better life. They themselves want to live a better life, and then they see South Africa as the kind of the land of milk and honey, and they want to come here and try and build a better life for themselves. But having said that, you need to work with other African countries to be able to say, if your citizens are here in our country unlawfully, there's something that needs to be done about that. You've got to play your role in helping us to repatriate them, because they cannot be in our country unlawfully. Basika in Pretoria is on the line to us. You want to talk about work environments, Basika? Good morning.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hi. Well, thanks. What's on your mind, Basika?
Have you got into an environment where you arrive and you find there are two groups or two factions, and you are seen and are observed on which group are you going to join? And the minute you join the other group, you become an enemy, not knowing that there are factions in this workplace, but you just decided to talk to people, and you are seen as an enemy because you associated yourself with another group. What I want to talk about is there is something, man, we turn a blind eye to it, and so many years, and we have many people who are suffering as a result of it being normalized, where you find an environment where you're supposed to work and be productive and be happy and grow professionally and in terms of your development in your career. And you find it very toxic that you can't even look forward to go to work for that particular day or even in any day, and you are so looking forward to go home when you are at your workplace because of these toxic politics that you find in your work, where most of us, because you have many people, Joanne, that have resigned from their work, not because they wanted to resign, but because they are like, I can't trade my mental health and my soul in a situation where I feel like crying each and every day, because each and every time I arrive here, there is always something and all that.
Yeah. Pasika, I wasn't here last week, but when Khomotso was standing in for me, she spoke to an HR professional, Kovani Mudli, who spoke about many of these issues that you've actually raised. And I think if you can find the podcast of that, you'd be quite interested to hear what Kovani had to say about that. She was making some important points about how the workplace has changed, right? We've always spoken about worker rights on Workers' Day, the right to work, the right to working in a safe place, etc. But the dynamics have changed so much as society has evolved that people are now working in environments where the toxicity levels are sometimes so high. The bullying is there, but it's covert, right? You can't spot it easily, difficult to put your finger on. The sexual harassment is there, but also difficult to put your finger on. And people find it very hard, are finding it extremely mentally taxing to be in environments like that. I hope you yourself have not gone through that, Basika, but I think, probably the first port of call is HR. If you're finding that there are particular individuals who are doing this to you, and I think the culture of companies need to be addressed. It's also a leadership problem where leaders actually, their toxicity sometimes trickles down to the rest of the staff, and they end up running a company full of toxic people because that's who they attract, and there's a natural level of attrition of people who don't embrace toxicity in the company. So thank you for sharing that for us, and I hope there aren't too many of our listeners out there who are experiencing that as they speak to us this morning. But thank you for putting that on the agenda. Mabalane in Joburg is on the line to us. Mabalane, what are your thoughts on NHI? Good morning.
Morning, Joanne. You triggered me earlier with the introduction around the question that the Judge Majid was asking around the costing.
Yes.
And what triggered me is how many acts do we have that have a cost implication? And when they were enacted, and I'm sure some of them may have been challenged, starting with the Commissions Act of 1947. If you just put together the number of commissions that have been put in place, including the Zondo Commission, which were told it cost 1 billion, how much would it have been possible for that act to be costed in terms of how much it will cost? The most recent one, and one that is more or less similar to the NHI, is the Bella Act. How much would have to be spent to ensure that the things that are in the Bella Act actually happen? The IEC Act of 1996, how much does it cost the IEC to run our elections? Would it have been a question to be asked at the time that how much will it cost for this particular act when it is in operation? So I think it's an unfair ask, as it was argued as well, that the NHI is expected to be implemented progressively over a 25-year period, and to cost it 25 years earlier, to project how much it will cost in that period. So I think it is an unfair question to ask, because what is the cost-benefit analysis? Should people be allowed to not access quality healthcare just because we don't know how much this thing is going to cost, but we don't ask the same about how much the Bella Act will have an impact on improving the quality of education for those that are disenfranchised?
I suppose because it's gone to court, the question has come up, right? And you know, when these acts are challenged in court, when the introduction of a new system that's being proposed is challenged in court, that is usually when it comes up. Otherwise, government is able to implement, right, without that kind of distraction. Having said that, I think you know, I'm not seeing any kind of fiscal commitment in terms of understanding how we're even going to start off and what it's going to cost at the beginning. And I think that some of that legwork really needs to be done, so that we have an idea, at least at the very beginning, of what the investment is going to be. And you're right, quite right, in terms of a human rights question, we need universal healthcare in this country. We desperately do. But perhaps the question is, what's it going to cost to fix up the current system so that we can move towards NHI? Because that, to me, seems an even bigger problem before we actually embark on NHI. Thank you so much for that call, Mabalane. Good speaking to you. Dwaisa in KwaZulu-Natal, you want to talk about Madlanga, Dwaisa?
Yes, good morning to you, Sister Joanne, and to the SAfm listeners. Quickly and straight to the point, I'm off, having listened to Major General Flynn, Hendrik Flynn, yesterday. I'll tell you, I got so disturbed. And I'm of a serious view that Major General, the provincial Hawks head, must definitely come back to the commission and answer for the allegations. And also answer about the meeting which involved him, Matlana, and the General Mkwanas. But going forward quickly, what shocked me is that the whole, from the beginning up to the alleged theft of the cocaine in Port Shepstone, was deliberate and was orchestrated, well planned, and Sinona was one of the masterminds behind it. Why I'm saying this, Joanne? You know, the drugs from the depot, actually it transpired, according to Flynn, that from the crime scene was tampered with.
Yes. Yeah.
Right up to the paper trail, to Isipingo trail, to Isipingo police station, right to Port Shepstone.
Yeah.
The paper trail that doesn't add up at all. And I'm of the view that whoever was involved, including Sinona, must account for this theft. And almost lastly, you know, Port Shepstone is from Isipingo, is about more than 100 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And according to Flynn, he told us yesterday that it is proven that, firstly, there were burglaries of about 6 to 7 at the very same Potchefstroom, right?
Yes.
And besides that, there were 4 police stations very close in a radius of about 30 kilometers around Durban from the depot.
Yeah.
So another interesting thing is that when Sinona appeared before the commission, he said, as a provincial head, he said he didn't know what was the outcome of the investigation. That is about 4 or 6 years ago. That was in 2021.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Dwaisa, I'm going to. Sorry.
Lastly, it's
quickly.
also possible that the drugs, in fact, never reached Potchefstroom, but made its way to Johannesburg, up to Sinona's friend, Busumuz Matlala. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dwaisa. And actually, I think I should let you do the Madlanga wrap at 11:30 today. But Dwaisa is quite right, recapping the events of that. And actually, Kat Matlala is back in court today. So the Madlanga Commission is also underway as Dwaisa speaks. Former Hawks member Jacobus Prinsloo appearing there in Pretoria. We're going to bring you more on this story next. The issue of informal traders being booted out of certain areas where they've been operating in Tshwane for a very long time. We'll get more details on that story in a moment.
You are listening to The Full Circle,
a space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
A 9:45 here on the Daily Discourse, and the Spaza Shop Association says the city of Tshwane has been demolishing informal trading structures across various townships. The organisation says this has severely affected entrepreneurs who are already fighting for survival. Let's talk to President of the Spaza Shop Association, Khutatso Ramautswe, who joins us on the line now. Mr. Ramautswe, good morning to you and thanks very much for your time. Please tell us what's been happening in terms of these demolitions.
Greetings and thank you for having us. Concern the city going around demolishing structures that have been there, which is affecting informal traders, equally dealing with the economy and the livelihood of our members on a daily basis. Because of we were understanding that the city, when they are going to do that, they will come with alternatives. I mean, if they are saying where we are working is not formally designed, they were supposed to prepare stalls for hawkers so that they can prepare them than to demolish their places without giving them alternatives.
Mr. Ramautswe, tell me, first of all, whether you had any prior notification of what was going to happen. Were they warned at all that their structures were going to be demolished?
Oh, no. They didn't. At some point, and some structures we didn't get. Like, for example, if you look at Mawopan Station, it has been there for decades.
Yes.
I mean, before the current administration. There was supposed to be a way. In fact, it's not about owning us. It's about, again, coming with solutions, moving us to another place. When they move shack dwellers from a certain area, they would have prepared a proper area for those shack dwellers. Why, when it comes to informal traders, they just come and demolish without giving us new areas that we can operate at, or proper places that we can operate at, rather than destroying what is left of the township economy.
So you had absolutely no notice whatsoever, and you were moved. What has become to these to the businesses of these what's become of the businesses of these informal traders now? Are they still able to trade somewhere in the area, or have they have to give up that livelihood essentially?
Majority have given up the livelihood. Majority are still trying with small stalls, which are not bigger than what they had previously, because of the municipality has not come with programs that would be able to assist them. So we're just trying as an association to try and speak with the municipality, but what we have recognized is that the municipality is not engageful when it comes to its own stakeholders.
So let's bring into the conversation the MMC of Human Settlements in Tshwane, Erin Maluleka. MMC, good morning to you and thank you for making the time to speak to us. Is it true?
Good morning and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Is it true that you've demolished the structures of these informal traders?
Yes, we did in Mabopane some time back because we were approached by community members and some of the traders that there are illegal activities that are taking place in Mabopane. There are drugs that are being sold. People are being marked on a daily basis, and we had to intervene. But I think there might be a lack of communication in terms of the plans that the city has with regard to the restoration of the informal traders. We are aware that informal traders or street vendors are a key sector in the economy, and we want to ensure that they get infrastructure, and we are having those plans. I will invite the leader to then engage with us so that we can share with them what are the plans in place to ensure that they continue trading in safer spaces and where all of us we protect other communities because many of illegal and trampling of bylaws are people that trade on pavements, trade on over our servitude and infrastructure. Therefore, we want to enforce bylaws, but we need to have a balance of ensuring that the informal traders and street vendors, they continue to earn a livelihood through their efforts of ensuring that they trade on a daily basis.
So MMC, just explain this to me, please. I mean, I totally understand. I think you are well within the bounds of the law to investigate these cases of alleged criminality that you've spoken about, right? You can your police can go out into the area. They can ensure that the investigation continues. But what communications have you had with this organization called SASA, which is actually, we mustn't confuse it with the Social Security Agency. It is the Spaza the Spaza shop representative collective, and they've said you've had absolutely no communication with them. They had no idea that their stalls were going to be invaded and destroyed.
We in Mabopane, for example, for many years we developed the trans-oriented development Mabopane for trains, buses. We have relocated informal traders and supported them with infrastructure. Where they were relocated, we took them, we engaged with them, we gave them alternative sites. And in Oliven, the current incident that took place in Oliven, we have found sponsors that are going to give them trading spaces. And these are efforts that comes from government, that there should be partnership and collaboration.
I appreciate that. I want to ask you, though, in this instance, where the informal traders have been removed in areas from areas like Mabopane, have you actually given SASA any notice? Did you give the traders themselves any notice before you moved them, or did you give them a warning at least about the fact that they were encroaching?
We did. We went there in our program called Riaspana. To do cleaning. If you were to ask anybody in Mabopane, there's a challenge of solid waste that is being dumped by informal traders in the middle of the road. We went there, cleaned, engaged, and told them on our intervention. And when we came to then remove those informal trading spaces, we had communicated prior. Therefore, what is missing, I believe, is the communication of what are the plans in place and when are we going to restore them in better spaces where they can trade.
So you've had a meeting with SASA already, and you've told them already that you were planning to move their members. Is that right?
What we did, we have not met with the leadership of the
MMC,
association.
either you met them or you didn't. Did you meet them or didn't you, MMC?
This is the point, that we met with the traders physically, those that are trading, when we were having a cleaning campaign. And at that point, we told them of the challenges that we're facing, the letters that are coming into the city, and we needed to intervene. Therefore, there was a prior warning in terms of the work that we needed to do to remove those informal trading spaces.
You know, the difficulty in this country, of course, is that with such a high unemployment rate, there are so many people who really do not want to move into crime or do dishonest things in order to make a living. They want to make a living doing this kind of thing, even though it's a very difficult way of making a living. And one would have thought that the city could have anticipated that you would have prepared a space to actually move them to and negotiated with them on the space into which they could move so that there would be a smoother transition rather than carrying out demolitions while they're still working from the existing space. MMC?
I do understand, but what is at play is that we understand that the informal traders are looking for foot traffic. They need to have coordinated, supported infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Some need electricity, some need lights. We want to do that, Joanne, because some of the informal traders there in Mabopane, those that were removed, connected electricity illegally. They had their water connected illegally. But we are building better infrastructure, and that will be communicated to them.
When will you communicate that to them, and how?
We can share contacts. I can coordinate because I'm a regional leader in Region 1. We can have that meeting so that they can understand what are the plans because there's a mall that is going to be built and there's a space identified where we're going to put them, where they can trade better.
So let me bring Mr. Ramagotswe back into the conversation now. So you've heard what the MMC has had to say. Essentially, certain laws being broken, certain criminal acts being committed. The city had legitimate concerns. Perhaps its communication wasn't up to scratch. But how do you feel about the possibility of having a meeting going forward with the city and trying to resolve this and finding a new place for the people you represent?
Well, we have the interest of working with the city, in fact, working with government in making sure that our members are protected. Remember, informal traders are not protected. What the MEC is saying now recently of the issue of crime, we're the ones who are dealing with crime. Even today in our station, there's an issue of crime that we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. We've never seen law enforcement agencies coming to deal with crime in Maupan station. So they're just trying to hide around crime. But I think the most important part is for us to work to look at a way forward. But the issue of saying there's a mall that is coming, it's been decades. That mall, they have been saying that there's a mall that is coming. They're gonna move informal traders. Those are talks that have been there. Those are plans that have been there. It's been decades since we've been operating at Maupan Station. We've been hearing such things. But we're willing to work hand in hand with government. We're willing to make sure that we restore the dignity of informal traders because of majority of them. They have nothing to do now. Some of them. Man, you would find that the increase of crime in Maupan is because of they have no source of income. So we're willing to work with the government.
All right.
They are going to give us a proper way forward, not just talk.
Okay. Let's get the MMC's guarantee here. MMC, you've heard what SASA's had to say. Are you able to commit to at least meeting with them and talking about the issues at hand, but also trying to find a solution as quickly as possible to make sure that all the informal traders who are out of work are able to get back into it as soon as possible?
Most definitely, it is in our interest to engage with them. What we are also adding to the conversation is that we should have a coordinated platform for all associations because you meet this association tomorrow. We need others that would then say they are representing others. We want to meet everybody. We will ensure that we outline our plans. They must be, clearly defined in terms of when exactly and the timelines. And that will do. We are committing to share those plans with them and having that meeting in the nearest future.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to leave it there for now. I'd love to hear a report back from both of you to find out how that meeting went. Kgotatso Ramoutswa, President of the South African Spaza Shop Association, and Aaron Maluleka, MMC of Human Settlements in Tshwane.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
Right, we're heading for the news bulletin in just a short while, but I'm listening to some of your voice notes, and many of you sending me voice notes about the issue of Cape Town's drains. You seem to really have taken umbrage to what was said about the drains allegedly being blocked.
Good morning, Joanne. It's really funny. People come here and say things because they just want to say good things about parties they support. Like the previous person that sent a voice note from Kailicha. saying the drains have been serviced. I was actually driving in Site B in Kailij at the same time when I was listening to that voice note, and I was laughing at him because so many roads are still flooded from the rains from last week. How funny someone then sends a voice note to say Cape Town is too big and the drains have been serviced just because they want to praise a certain party. It doesn't help anyone. Let's say things as they are.
And one of you commenting on the issue of mother tongue learning, and one of our listeners earlier telling us that he was worried about factions developing in his school as children learnt in different language groups.
Gore, Sydney is talking about teaching our children mathematics and all other subjects, accounting, in mother tongue. It can't be. We cannot go back to divide and rule, and we cannot even afford it financially to have one teacher teaching each teacher in all these languages in one grade. No, then when they pass matric, they go to university. Are you going to do engineering, mathematics, medicine, all other statistics in these 11 official languages? It can't be. We can't afford. You will be talking about China, Japan, or France teaching in mother tongue. Of course, they're teaching in one official language, but not 11 official language, which is costly. We cannot afford it. If the problem is that our children are not good in their English, rather have grade R, start it earlier for 2 years, teach our children to be conversant in English so that they can improve. There is no need to waste money because this is not sustainable.
Catch-22 there. I would love to hear your ideas on this. I know there are linguists who are listening to the program and people who work in this area, academics as well. Perhaps you could suggest a way forward for the children of the country who should be able to learn in their mother tongue. That is absolutely their right. But, the parents themselves are talking about these divisions that are working against the unity of our country and the unity of our children in their school environment. So please suggest some solutions. I have no idea how one begins to approach this, because by honouring one cultural demand, we are also creating an unintended consequence. Let's put it that way. Let's have more of those conversations after 10 o'clock right now. And Musa standing by with your latest news bulletin.
In our top stories, Kucha municipality issues urgent evacuation order and 3 Eastern Cape police officers killed. Good morning. Residents in areas in the Gamtoos Valley in the Eastern Cape have been urged to evacuate their homes after the Kucha Dam exceeded its capacity, posing a serious flood risk to communities. In a statement, the Kucha municipality says low-lying areas in the Gamtoos Valley, the Gamtoos Mouth Resort, Kingsway Village, the Big Fish, and the Ferry Hotel are at risk of being flooded. Evacuation shelters have been opened at the Katrina Felix Hall and the Luri Community Hall. 3 police constables have been shot and killed in Karigan, the Eastern Cape. Police say preliminary investigations suggest that a male constable forced his way into a house. He then shot a female constable and another male constable. Police responded to reports of a shooting and found the 3 police officers with fatal gunshot wounds. Provincial Police spokesperson Brigadier Nobantu Gantana says a state-issued firearm was confiscated at the scene.
All 3 members were declared dead, 2 at the scene and the 3rd after being transported to Kayla Hospital. The identities will be released as soon as next of kin notification is completed. A state-issued firearm was confiscated at the scene. Ballistic analysis will form part of the ongoing investigation.
National Coloured Congress leader Fadil Adams has arrived at the Pinetown Magistrates Court west of Durban, where he's set to appear this morning. He was arrested on Tuesday on charges of defeating and/or obstructing the ends of justice and fraud relating to the murder case of former ANC Youth League leader Sindiso Magaqa. It's alleged that Adams interfered with investigations when he met with an accused in the murder case, Sibusiso Ngengwa, who had been in custody at the Westville Correctional Service. Ngengwa, who confessed to Makaka's murder, has been convicted and sentenced. Ayanda Mhlongo is outside of court.
Mr. Adams arriving here under heavy police guard, accompanied by the members of the Political Killings Task Team. They're, of course, investigating this particular case. There is going to be a strong police presence in and around the Pinetown Magistrates Court. I can also say that upon arrival of Mr. Adams, we also saw his family arrive, his wife, who we were with and engaged with last night when we were at the Westville Police Station awaiting his arrival.
A team of researchers at the University of Cape Town has developed a landmark artificial intelligence language model trained on South Africa's 11 official written languages. The researchers had developed two models, the Mzansi Text Multilingual Dataset covering the 11 official written languages, and the Mzansi LM, a language model trained on that dataset. One of the UCT researchers, Francois Meyer, says their development will be presented at the Language Resources and Evaluation Conference in Spain this month.
So there's been real progress in language modeling for African languages, including some South African ones like isiXhosa and isiZulu. But most existing models only cover a subset of languages. With Mzansi LM, we wanted to build a single model focused specifically on South Africa that covers all 11 official written languages, including those that are often left out.
And finally, a source close to Hezbollah has told French news agency AFP that one of its senior commanders have been killed in an Israeli strike in the southern suburbs of Lebanon's capital, Beirut, yesterday. It was his first attack in the area in nearly a month. The source named the commander as Malik Balot, who is said to be the operations commander. The BBC's Lina Sanjab has the details.
It was a targeted airstrike, and we understand that it hit a commander in Radwan Brigade along with his assistant and some others who were apparently in a meeting. That information came from the IDF. They've announced that they have targeted one of the leaders of Radwan Brigade, who was responsible in accordance to the Israelis to some attacks in northern Israel.
Recapping the top story, residents in areas in the Gamtoos Valley in the Eastern Cape have been urged to evacuate their homes after the Kruger Dam exceeded its capacity, posing a serious flood risk to communities. For SAfm News, I'm Anne Musa.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
Some songs take you back instantly to your first love, a road trip, or just simpler times. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, is where timeless hits and forgotten favorites come together to tell your story. It's not just music, it's memories, moments, and the meaning behind this jam.
Don't you change someone by night.
Rediscover the songs that shaped your journey. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m., only on SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide.
Standing on his own.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm with Joanne Joseph, unpacking the issues that matter. The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
7 minutes past 10 on the Daily Discourse. Thank you for joining us. We've entered our second hour of the program and we're talking bankruptcy in Johannesburg. Are we bankrupt? We owe a lot of money to various creditors that have not been paid. We are looking at our credit rating being put on review by Moody's for a possible downgrade. The municipality's debt securities have been suspended because we haven't published audited financial statements in Johannesburg. It is just right now such a challenge for the city to actually make ends meet, it appears. And yesterday it it came into the public domain because the DA mayoral candidate, Helen Ziller, brought this issue forward. She had a media briefing and she spoke about this. But it was all based on a really important letter that gave it all away. The Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, is sending a letter to the city mayor, Dada Morero, saying, if you don't get your act together, we're going to pull all funding from you. And Treasury is serious this time round. So let's see what's happening. They're asking for a meeting, the city is, and it'll be very interesting to see how they go about resolving this. I want to take a call on one of the previous stories we did in the last hour, and this was on the issue of informal structures for vendors in the Tshwane city. And this is important because what essentially happened was that in several areas of Tshwane, the informal vendors who were selling in particular areas were just moved out with very little notice. That's a bit of a he said, she said situation. SASA, which is the organization for spaza shop owners that's representing the vendors, says they weren't given any warning. The MMC for the city says they were actually warned, but it wasn't done formally in the way it should have been, and they should have communicated better, and they're looking to move them to a separate space. So let's hear from one of you on this issue. Charlie in Queenstown, what's your take on this, Charlie? Good morning.
I think the MMC is missing the point, because when you are moving people that they've already established themselves, they've got clientele that they are servicing, they've got customers that they are servicing. You can't just go on a cleaning campaign and also just because when you explain how they informed the informal traders, it seems so informal. It was not something that was formalized, where they sat down. Remember, when you're moving people, you need to involve them on the planning and say, we are moving you from here, we are going to relocate you to a certain place. This is the infrastructure that is readily available for your benefit. This is, you can't just go on a cleaning campaign and meet people informally and say, we are going to move you to another place and come on the radio to say you have consulted. The MMC is missing the point of consultation, involvement of the affected parties in terms of that plan. Because when you're planning for the people, you must also involve them. That's where the politicians are missing the point. They will sit in a planning boardroom, plan for the people without their presence, without their input. And I was hoping that this call would have been taken while you were still there, because I would say, what was the input of the informal traders?
Yes.
What is it? What are the needs of the informal traders in terms of the move, the relocation itself? They don't have that statistics. They don't have that record to say this is what they inputted. But it's just that because they've got power, to me, this is an abuse of power. They're abusing the power, tampering with the livelihoods of the people, while they know exactly that this government is failing dismally to create the much needed jobs. While people now are standing up and doing something for themselves, they even interrupt that value chain, of which they take it for granted. They underestimate the importance of that value chain and what it contributes to the livelihood of the affected people.
This is so true. Charlie, thank you very much for that. I mean, of course, one has to bear in mind there's a balance there. If the city finds out that there's criminality taking place in a certain area and that bylaws are being broken, it's up to them to make sure that they actually they ensure that the bylaws are adhered to and that crime is stamped out, right? Because the criminals are potentially a threat to the informal traders themselves as well. Having said that, the way you go about it is so important, and consultation is so important. And this is, we're going to be talking about this a lot tomorrow, right? But tomorrow is 30 years since our Constitution was adopted, and one of the core principles of our Constitution is dignity. And I think that's what we sometimes forget about when we go about these things. We may be well-intentioned, right? We may actually say, we want to move these informal traders to a different area where they'll better be able to trade, there might be more traffic, they'll be safer, they will be trading in circumstances where they have access to electricity and other facilities, amenities that they did not have before. But if you do not go about engaging with them in a dignified way and ensuring that their dignity is respected in the way you move them, then you've breached a constitutional value, right? And so the way we go about these things, we cannot be heavy-handed in the way we deal with people who, as Charlie has said, are just trying to really make a living and have been doing that for such a long time in the same area. So balancing those two becomes actually quite difficult. Thank you for that call, Charlie. I'm taking your voice notes as well. This issue of home languages coming up repeatedly on the WhatsApp line, and I understand why, because it's a very emotive issue for many of us. I think one of the fantastic things about our country is that we have managed to preserve our languages, even through apartheid and colonization. We have managed to preserve our indigenous languages, which is a huge achievement in itself. The question is, once you start facing these difficult questions in formal structures like schools and so on, how do you navigate some of the difficulties that come up? Let's listen to your voice notes on this.
Hi, Joanne. I think the caller that just called with regards to the school language systems raises a very, very good point, and to some degree I agree with him. However, one also needs to find the cohesion, as he mentioned, that we at what point will the kids learn their languages? Because is the one that they learn at home going to be enough? I highly doubt. So
All right, so, sorry, slight technical problem there. We're just having a bit of difficulty getting hold of our guest right now for this Johannesburg story that we are running. We were meant to speak to Sasabona Manganye, the ANC Greater Johannesburg Regional Secretary, about this issue of the shocking letter that came to light, in which it's exposed the financial situation of the city of Johannesburg. We can't quite reach Sasabona right now. We're going to try and get someone else on the line. I'm just going to take a short break right now, and then when we come back, we will have this conversation.
As part of Africa Month, now we are profiling
Nigeria, West Africa. Africa Month, one continent, many giants.
This Africa Month, we feel the pulse of Nigeria.
Over 200 million people, more than 500 languages, Africa's largest economy, oil that powers industries, creativity that powers the world, home of Afrobeats, which is a global sound, home of Nollywood, which is global storytelling.
From Lagos Street to Abuja halls, this is hustle. This is innovation. This is fire. A nation of entrepreneurs, a nation that builds, creates, and leads.
Nigeria gained independence in 1960. However, colonial rule left behind political and ethnic divisions that still affect national unity today.
Nigeria doesn't wait, it moves.
In every beat, in every voice, in every dream, Nigeria rises.
Nigeria, the giant of Africa.
Africa Month on SAfm. Conversations, context, connection.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAfm, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAfm.
All right, sometimes we quite literally get our lines crossed, and while we were trying to get hold of Mr. Manganye, he was trying to get hold of us. So we have got our act together, and we are looking at this story for you at this hour, this shocking letter coming to light, in which Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has warned Joburg's Mayor Dada Morero to either get his financial house in order or face the consequences. In the last week of April, Godongwana seemingly made it clear that he'll cut funding to the city of Joburg unless strict measures are put in place to curtail Joburg's expenditure. ANC Greater Johannesburg Regional Secretary Sasabona Manganye is on the line to us now. Thank you so much for your time on the program this morning, Mr. Manganye. First of all, is Joburg bankrupt?
Good morning to yourself and also to your listeners. I
I wouldn't say Joburg is bankrupt, but definitely there are financial challenges that Johannesburg has been facing. And it's not a new challenge that we have identified just now. You will know that even at the time we took over the city of Johannesburg, the city was unable to can pay service providers, cars were grounded and all that. So it's a matter that has been haunting the city, and in the main, it is the issue of revenue generation which the city is supposed to generate. There are a number of people that are not paying for their services, and that it disables the city to get the required revenue to can be able to deliver the required services to the people of Johannesburg. But of course, we have a commitment from our deployees in government that they are working in the mechanism to ensure that we improve our revenue generation. Currently, we are at around plus or minus 84% instead of getting to at least minimum 88 to 90 something percent.
All right. I want to get.
Those are some of the challenges.
All right. I want to get to the numbers in a moment. But I want to ask you this first. I mean, Helen Zille, the DA mayoral candidate, has come out saying the city owes its creditors 25.2 billion, but it only has cash and cash equivalents in hand of 3.9 billion. Are those numbers correct?
Look, those particular numbers have been highlighted. We know that the city has been struggling to pay even some of the service providers. So we are aware of the fact that there are those kind of challenges in terms of. So I wouldn't want to confirm the actual figure which you are raising.
Why not, sir? Is there a reason that you don't want to confirm the exact amount that the city?
No, I will want the city to confirm that.
All right.
I speak for the party, not the city.
Yes.
So that's why I don't want to confidently say yes, it's 25 billion, and tomorrow the city says no, it's not.
Well, clearly you're grappling with this, and part of the challenge that you're grappling with is finding out how bad the situation is on the ground. So, I mean, saying you've got lots of challenges is a fairly opaque way of saying, yeah, we think there's a problem. We're not really sure to what extent this is a problem. Helen Zille has given very, very specific details, and I think the public has the right to know whether indeed, these figures are correct or whether they are overblown, for example. So is she way off the mark?
Yes,
is she way off the mark with these numbers?
No. You see, I'm trying to direct you. Helen Zille gives you the figures. There is a city of Johannesburg that also have got its own communication people who can confirm those figures. I can't speak on behalf of the city. I speak on behalf of the party. So I don't think it's fair to want me to confirm what Helen Zille have said. I don't think it's fair.
All right. Do you know if the city has in any way violated the Municipal Finance Management Act?
We do not believe so. Look, it's you are dealing with a situation where the city is struggling to collect revenue. I'm not sure if you struggle to collect revenue, that implies you are violating the Municipal Act. Of course, the other elements that we are concerned about is the audit outcomes from the Auditor General. They have highlighted some worrying issues that we have been very clear with the city that they must look at those issues and ensures that where there are areas of violation, there must be consequence management. But I do not want to reduce the challenges, the financial challenges of the city into those issues, because in the main, they are not the major problem. The major problem is the city's struggling to collect revenue as projected.
But there's also seemingly a problem with expenditure that Minister Godongwana has highlighted. He's raised this issue of the politically facilitated agreement, which promises a wage increase to members of the South African Municipal Workers Union. I mean, give us a sense of how such a significant wage increase was negotiated at a time when the city is so cash-strapped.
The challenge you are dealing with on the PFA is the fact that you are dealing with a legacy of, many years where workers of Johannesburg were not being paid salaries of the level in which they were supposed to be paid in terms of the status of the municipality when the municipality became a metro and the category that it was categorized. So the salaries were supposed to be adjusted, and that has not been done over time. And the city gradually is trying to close that particular gap. And of course, as much as we are dealing with the financial challenges, we must never downplay the fact that workers also have got their own rights and they've got a bargaining power that they need to utilize in terms of dealing with those issues. Of course, we are saying that there must be a balance in the manner in which these matters are attended to. It shouldn't necessarily be a posture that says workers should not get what they deserve. There must be definitely balance.
Agreed. It is a fine balance. Let's bring into the conversation at this point the Action SA Gauteng caucus leader, Funzi Ngobeni, who says the party's known about these failures for the longest time. Can I get a reaction to you to what Mr. Sasabona is saying at this hour, Mr. Ngobeni? What do you feel about the response that the ANC has given?
Look, I think the first question that you asked is whether the municipality has violated the MFMA. I think that is what the National Treasury is alleged, and the leader of the ANC cannot then want to say that has not happened. Firstly, National Treasury says the city passed an unfunded budget. They went and made assumptions based on revenue that is not collected. It's correct to say the revenue levels at the moment are sitting at around 84%, and that means that the city is financially unsustainable. You then recognize that if you go on and then say to the workers that we are going to give you all these monies that are due to you, and I must be very clear, Joanne, that we support PFA as Action SA because it deals with disparities that have been there. That there was a commitment that they will be addressed since 2016.
Yes, but we're looking at 10.3 million, Mr. Ngobeni. I mean, is that something the city can actually practically afford?
So that agreement that was signed in 2016 went further to say, and I must underline the fact that the agreement was signed by Labour, it was signed by the city, it was endorsed by Cocta Department in the province, it went ahead and got endorsed by Labour Court. What I want to underline in that agreement was that all of these stakeholders agreed that this PFA will be implemented responsibly. The workers did say that if the city doesn't have money, the city must not bank itself in the effort of wanting to meet their demands. The workers were very clear at that time that we are residents of the city. We don't want to bankrupt our own city. So we are saying take responsible decisions in implementing PFA. But what's really concerned us is that this particular administration went ahead and promised workers things that are not sustainable. And that is why the workers eventually, if you see, they are quite angry at the moment because they have been promised a pie in the sky, something that National Treasury calls illegal, and that is the ANC government that must account to that, because indeed, as I'm indicating, the city is going through financial distress, and if you look at the time when it was approving the adjustment budget. And the numbers will tell you that at that time, City Power had under-collected by close to about 800 million. Johannesburg Water had under-collected by close to about 600 million. Pick It Up had under-collected by an amount of close to 100 billion. That tells you that, the entities that are supposed to generate revenue for the city were already under-collecting that time before they passed the adjustment budget.
Yes.
But they
So
went ahead
why,
and passed it with all that.
can we, just in the interest of time, Mr. Ngobeni, why is the city of Joburg unable to collect the revenue that's owed to it?
Look, there's many factors, and I think the leadership of the ANC know very well that there are issues that are happening in the revenue department. Essentially, even the MNCs that have been appointed there, they have not been able to manage the department and be able to ensure that they push the department to collect. If you look at the number of properties that we have in the city, close to about 1 million properties that the city can be able to collect from. And then you look at buildings and industries that are around the city, and many of them that are connecting to the city infrastructure illegally. And that has not been enforced as one of the things. Before you even look at law-abiding citizens that are not paying and maybe that are going through financial distress, look at those that are able to pay. Look at those entities. Look at those complexes that are connecting to city water and city electricity illegally. Deal with those things. Because at the time when Mr. Mashaba was the mayor, he introduced what we call Operation Mteto, where we were going around and disconnecting these entities, including government entities that were not paying the city. So there's money to collect in the city. The city of Johannesburg can be able to sustain itself without even getting grants from national.
Right.
But because we are failing to put processes in place and we are failing to have leadership that has political will to be able to deal with these matters, we find our city in the current condition that it is at.
Well, I want to thank you both for participating in this conversation. You heard there the voice of Funzi Ngobeni. He's the Gauteng caucus leader of Action SA. And prior to that, Sasabona Manganye, the ANC Greater Johannesburg Regional Secretary. We'll take your calls in just a short while. It's 10:30 right now. Let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Joanne. On the news headlines on SAfm, I'm on Delambana and a very good morning. Residents in areas in the Hamtwas Valley in the Eastern Cape have been urged to evacuate their homes after the Kruger Dam exceeded its capacity, posing a serious flood risk to communities. National Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate has dismissed claims that the lawyers of National Coloured Congress leader Fadil Adams were not informed about his whereabouts during his transfer from Cape Town to Durban, and 3 police constables have been shot and killed in Kariega in the Eastern Cape today. According to police, preliminary investigations suggest that a male constable forced his way into a house in Rudman Street. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAfm supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAfm, leading the conversation. The Daily Discourse, more than talk, real understanding.
10:31 here on the Daily Discourse with me, Joanne Joseph. I'm taking your calls right now. Our studio line 086 000 2032, WhatsApp 0614 104 107. What did you think about the conversation we just had with both the ANC representative and the Action SA representative? I think if one looks at the situation, it's a very difficult situation right now. Workers have been legally promised this increase of 10.3 billion. It's been approved at all sorts of levels. And I get the sense, actually, from the kind of reading I've done about it, that it was pushed through before the G20 because, of course, you want you want to know the workers are going to be on board, right? When you are inviting international entities to come into your country, all sorts of organizations and individuals, high-profile people are visiting your country. You want your city clean. You want Joburg to look like the world-class city that you say it is. And if the workers are not on board with that, unfortunately, it isn't going to look like that. And what do you have to do to get them to agree to that? Well, perhaps you have to give in to a demand that may at that time be unreasonable. I don't know. This is one of the issues that analysts are telling us could have played a role in the city's decision to go ahead with this promise to the workers. And of course, I mean, the cost of living has gone up in our country so radically, and it is the workers who are in positions like this who are the worst affected from a financial point of view. So how do we honor their commitment to the city and their jobs and their livelihoods and treat them with dignity, but at the same time ensure that the survival of our city remains on the agenda? Because, I mean, collection levels may be up to 84% now, and they're hoping to get them up to 80% to 88% a little bit later on. We were told by Mr. Manganye. But even so, even if those collection levels are up to where they need to be, how long is it going to take us to address the backlog, to pay off all the debts that we need to, and make sure that we repair the ailing infrastructure in the city that is preventing us from, let's be honest, being the world-class city that we could actually be? All right, we're going to look at that issue with you, and I would love your voice notes and calls on that. For now, we're also moving to a different part of the country, really. We're looking at the Cape in general. And I say that because we're looking at the Northern Cape, we're going to look at the Garden Route, we're going to look at Gqeberha and various other areas of the Eastern Cape, because we're looking at the weather today and doing a weather watch. We know that the weather in the country was just brutal over the last couple of days. The Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape being among the provinces that were worst affected. And the South African Police Service has been very active. It's been urging residents to take extra precautions on the roads. There have been icy weather conditions in several parts of those provinces, and our reporters have been receiving regular updates on how authorities have been responding to emergencies caused by the bad weather. And we're going to get an update right now from Segri Chetty, our SABC News editor in George. Segri, good morning to you, and thanks very much for offering to put us in the picture as to what is happening. I think we must start with this very sad story that you're about to bring us of a social worker in the Garden Route who died on the way to help some of these survivors of the flooding.
Joanne, good morning to you and the listeners. Yes, that is a very sad story indeed. A woman, 37 years old, that was actually on her way to help some of the people in Knysna affected by the flooding, who unfortunately was killed when a very large tree, was uprooted and the tree fell on top of her car. It's very unfortunate that, that she was actually killed. The Department of Social Development sending condolences to her friends, family, and her colleagues, of course. Yes, so if you want an update of what's actually happening in the region, it's still raining right now. The Weather Services has actually downgraded the storm from level 8 to category 6 right now. And as you mentioned earlier, that low weather system is actually moving across from the Garden Route and now into the east to Gqeberha. So what disaster officials are actually doing right now is they actually assessing the situation in the Little Karoo and the Garden Route. Lots of places, especially Plet and Knysna, that were hardest hit by those rains and floods. With rainfall figures that we're just getting in this morning, these areas are actually water scarce areas. But in the past 2 days, they've seen rainfall figures exceeding 200 millimeters. So that's good news, of course, for their water situation. But of course, on the other hand, this rain has also brought a lot of damage to the area.
I see that you're also contending with high winds there, but I don't know if this is happening in George itself or in surrounding areas, Segri, but I believe that residents in that part of the country have also had to deal with the dangers of snow and ice.
Well, not so much snow. The snow was mostly in the central Karoo, in the area of Beaufort West. But yes, definitely lots of wind in this area. Yesterday we saw swells at the coast in excess of 8 meters, And I don't know if people have been actually paying attention to the social media videos going around. If you look at places like Victoria Bay, a very popular area, beach area, and a lot of houses along Victoria Bay that were completely engulfed by water and a lot of surf, that came out from the ocean. So that winds definitely played havoc, not only at the sea, but in Nysland Plet itself, a lot of large trees uprooted. There was one tree that actually fell across the N2, which is a national road, and traffic was, there was traffic for quite a few hours until emergency workers, could bring out their people and cut up that large tree to open the road. Yeah, so the wind definitely played havoc. A lot of roofs we've heard that were being blown away, especially in the informal settlements, and some people calling for assistance from their local municipalities, to help them.
Thank you so much for putting us in the picture there. Segri Chetty, our SABC news editor in George. Well, this inclement weather has also made landfall over the Eastern Cape. As Segri said just a moment ago, heavy rain, strong winds reported there. Let's get the latest from our SABC reporter in Gqeberha, Ntombozuko Balintu. She is live to us now. Thank you so much for joining us in Ntombozuko. So give us a sense of what it is looking like on the ground there. I understand the rainfall in the Eastern Cape has been extremely high in the last few days.
Thank you so much. It has been extremely high. Roads are damaged, sidewalks are damaged. There's a lot of numbers increasing in evacuated centers here in Gqeberha. We just came from one here in Woma where it was close to plus minus 50 people in that area. And also we know that there is other people that have been evacuated in KwaZakele at the Lillian Goy Sports Center. And we just know that not only here in Gqeberha, but also in Kariyega and Kokama municipality, and also Sarah Bartman, that is in Makanda. There's a lot of videos that we receive from the municipality that are also just showing the level of waters in terms of the bridge. And also there's a bridge that, I don't know if you remember from last year when we had floods in Kariyega, that's overflowing. They just renovated the bridge just recently. And so there's quite a lot that's happening. But of course, right now we are at the South African Weather Services offices just to get, an understanding of how much rain we've received. And we also know that the N2 here in Gqeberha is also being closed. There was storm waters, and early in the morning, the road was closed.
Ntombozuko, I believe we've also had some incidences of Eskom dealing with power outages in many areas. How are they managing that?
The municipality would say they are hard at work, just trying to make sure that they're trying to assist in terms of the electricity. Eskom, I know that some areas, Summerstream and Blue Water, are also affected with electricity. I think also in Woma, and they say that they are trying by all means to make sure that they do assist in that regard when it comes to electricity.
Ntombozuko, thank you so much for putting us in the picture there. She is live to us, of course, from Gqeberha, our reporter Ntombozuko Balintulo, bringing us the update on that. I'm really hoping that the weather is going to clear up in that area. These regions of the country have really been very hard hit in the last few days.
You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAfm.
20 minutes to 11 here on the Daily Discourse, and we're taking your calls and we're listening to your voice notes. We've spoken about so many things in the last few minutes, one of them notably being the issue of Johannesburg, the DA mayoral candidate, Helen Zille, saying that the city is bankrupt. The ANC representative, who spoke to us a little bit earlier on, saying he doesn't want to confirm that. It's up to the city itself to confirm that. Thomas in Newcastle, what do you think about this issue?
Joanne, it is a very worrying issue. This is the point from which I'm coming. I'm looking at why is it that the ANC is neither confirming nor against. It's because they more or less know that their days are numbered. So they would want to leave an incoming administration with the problem of dealing with labor, and that's going to bring unrest. And then they are going to turn around and say, this is because the DA this, the DA that, or whoever. I'm sure they are really scared because they should have done this for the last 30 years. They should have, if we based everything on what he was saying. This is a backlog from whenever. Yes. Why didn't they address it? So they are setting us up right now for unrest. And unfortunately, most of us, we will say the TA doesn't want to, you see, or whoever. I mean, I'm convinced Helen Deal is going to take the thing unless I'm proven wrong.
Do you think so?
Because she needs to. Yeah, no, she needs to. She needs to call her old, call her Gogo, call her whatever. But they have delivered. I think it's about time now we admit to that. They have delivered. And all we want is no legacy, no nothing. We want delivery. That's all.
Thomas, thank you. Thank you very much for that call. And I think Thomas is making an interesting point there about the unrest that can occur from something like this, from not thinking ahead. And it worries me. I mean, the Action SA representative said something very significant about what was essentially incompetence. People were not doing their jobs. They weren't, the leaders who were in charge of the council were not doing enough to actually collect revenue. If there had been a clampdown, a number of years before, where those in charge of the city had said, we are going to collect revenue, come hell or high water, we're going to do this, and we're going to make sure that the city is a functioning city, you know, clearly it would have been a different picture. If it's all down to incompetence, imagine how we've ended up in a situation, how unnecessary it was for us to end up in this kind of situation where we're sitting at a point where we owe millions, we haven't paid our debtors, and our credit rating is going to be downgraded, and we're not able to provide the basic services that we need to because people could not think ahead and do their jobs properly in the past. Chris in Durban, good morning. What do you think?
Joanne, thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity. I think firstly, ditto what the previous caller actually said. But the thing that's worrying, and the word that was used just now when you were talking about incompetence, the representative of the ruling party said, yeah, there is a problem, but, you know, we're working on it. And an interview was conducted, and which I heard a copy of the interview this morning, by the mayor himself, the executive mayor himself. He doesn't think the problem is so big. So I don't know whether you understand maths. And coming down to the commitments that were made to unions, look, I understand people must get a wage and what have you. But the thing is, to get a wage, and same applies to me, for me to get a wage, I have to do something to earn it. Joburg is in derelict. I mean, there's potholes of, traffic lights are not working. You can't continue paying people if the work is not being done. So I don't know. I mean, to me, this is very simple mathematics.
Yeah, I think discipline is the key word here, Chris. That's what we've not seen in the city. We've not seen people insisting that the job gets done and that people who are being paid to do the job do their work. I mean, and it's probably a situation throughout the public service. There are, as I always like to say, I like to qualify this by saying there are pockets of excellence where people work very hard in the public service and do what they're supposed to do for the public that they're serving. But by and large, we're not seeing people being held to account, right? Whether it's a worker who is working on the ground, whom you see every day in the streets as you walk through or drive through, or whether it's someone sitting at a very high level instructing that person to get the work done. I'm not sure where the breakdown occurs, but clearly somebody is not doing what they're supposed to do, or perhaps it's several more people than one. Thabo in Joburg, tell us what you think.
How are you, Mr. Joseph?
I'm so well, thanks. Tell me what you think about the Joburg situation, Thabo.
No, you know what, man, this thing is not started here. I am an employee of the city. This thing started on the 2016. It's been long overdue, Mrs. Joseph. And if I can say, it's unfair because other people, they went to the pension without getting this money. Remember, when the COGTA is being categorized, this thing is categorized by COGTA to take us from grade 8 to grade 10. So now we are supposed to be in grade 10. So what they did, after they did like the city, the management, those who are on top positions, they are aiming in grade 10. Us here as a lower, aiming like a general workers, we are aiming with grade 8. Is this fair? It's not fair. Now the minister is coming to interfere with this thing. I can ask again this question. When that time DA, you remember DA took this thing to the court recently, and the court struck this thing out of the court. Yeah. Why didn't minister be on the court and argue this thing? And this thing started in 2016, Mr. Joseph. It's unfair to us. Other people, they are going to pension without getting this demand. It's been fine. We have been taken from category 8 to grade 10. The management on top, like those mayors, and they are aiming with that, or is because them they are on the higher position. They are one who is supposed to earn only on the grade 10. Us here, we must also remain on grade 8. It's unfair to ours.
Yes,
It's
no,
unfair.
I hear you. I hear you as a member of the staff at the city. I think there are genuinely people who are committed to making the city work. But as you say, Tabo, it goes all the way back. It goes back so many years, and it's just been allowed to compound and compound with time. The problem just gets worse with time. If you're not collecting debt, if you're not keeping a check on what you're paying people in relation to what you are bringing in as revenue in terms of the city's ability to bring in revenue, I mean, you are going to end up at some kind of impasse at some point where all of this catches up with you. Tabo, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us from inside the city as a worker there. Musa, you're going to take us to KZN. I believe you want to speak about unemployment. Good morning, Musa.
Good morning, Joanne. How are you?
I'm so well, thanks.
Good, Joanne. Joanne, I'm just wondering here. I don't know if we can perhaps get the Department of Labor and the Department of Small Business maybe tomorrow. I don't know if we can have a bit more time, maybe in the second hour on your show to discuss the solution that I think I have for this problem. You see.
For the problem of unemployment.
Yes, the problem of unemployment.
So just give us a short elevator pitch. What do you think is the answer?
Okay. Joanne, I think we should establish an unemployment crisis committee. As unemployed people in South Africa. A committee that will deal directly with this issue, whereby we'll be able to come up with workable solutions to solve the problem. One of which we need to engage the private sector, for example. People like your restaurants, your big restaurants, we need to sit down with them so that they can be able to look into this issue of them employing foreign nationals, whereas we as people in this country are available to actually occupy those jobs. And we are their customers. So where do they think we get the money to continue supporting them? So there's a couple of ways we can do this, but all in all, we need a government to play the supporting role to this committee.
All right.
So I would really love to engage them and to see how we can chart a way forward. But we need to solve this issue now, because the longer it goes, we have a lot of people each and every year. We have people entering the job market, and it's getting to a point now where the job market can't absorb any more people.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
true.
Where do we go?
Right. Where do we go?
Here?
Exactly. And a lot of people among them are the graduates, right? They've paid their dues at their tertiary institutions, and they're waiting to move into the job market, and it just can't sustain them. Thank you for that, Musa. I think it's actually a good idea to have a conversation in general about unemployment and the ways that we can start solving those on several different levels. Listening to one of your voice notes now to get back to the Joburg issue, the allegations that Joburg is bankrupt. Let's listen in.
Hi, Joanne. It's Chris in Pietermaritzburg. I think one of the things is really to look at where is the money being wasted before we talk about collection. Too often, the residents are made to pay for misadministration and wastages that are happening in municipalities. I mean, people in Johannesburg are earning salaries that are close to what the president earns, above 2 million, and what even ministers don't earn. That is the first point. But secondly, the minister must not just send warning letters. He must have interventions, both that are controlled at Treasury, because it's obvious that the province has also failed.
Morning, Joanne and SAfm listeners. Bafanas Bia here from Nkwenkwe, Mtonjanen, KZN. Who doesn't know that when we're called plurals, we're not allowed in towns? So the influx of people in Johannesburg created all this mess. I just feel sorry for 8 out of 10 mayor, Tata Morero, and it's like he's failing because of the influx, the population of Johannesburg. But he mustn't have graded himself 8 out of 10. Thank you. Bye.
I wonder how many people agree with you about Dada Morero's rating there. And one of you saying, hi, Joanne, failed state, pothole damaging our cars daily. And that's true. How many people do you speak to who've driven into a pothole of late? It's people who, even people who drive really carefully. And I must be honest, and I would like to blow my trumpet in this regard. I'm like the only person in my family who doesn't drive through potholes, right? My husband seems to attract them somehow. And so every now and then he comes home from somewhere and he says, oh, I drove into a pothole. And I'm really good about it, so I try to be very careful and avoid them as much as possible. But then I take my car to have my tires changed, right? They're getting to the point where they'll become smooth if I don't change them. And the guy looks at my tires and he shakes his head and he says, oh, bent rims. And I said, from what? I haven't hit any potholes. And he says, everybody who comes here, whether you have hit potholes or not, everyone who comes here arrives with bent rims in Johannesburg, because that's just the thing. The state of the roads is such that all your rims are just generally bent. And now we've introduced a kind of a tire insurance or rim insurance to be able to cover that, because it's such a problem. So I would have liked to have gone back home and gloated at my husband and said to him, my tires were perfect, my rims are perfect. They're not. Everybody who is driving in Johannesburg, more or less, has exactly the same problem. Emmanuel in KwaZulu-Natal, you want to talk about Africa Month. Emmanuel, welcome.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm so well, thanks. Tell me what's on your mind.
All right. I want to comment on Africa Month. What's in my mind is that I believe at this point we have to wake up as Africans, meaning to say that dangerous path we took as the people, we ended up relying on the system that we're currently using instead of becoming self-reliant where the power is. So according to my own belief and according to my own research and my knowledge, I believe that it has to start with our youngsters. We need to teach them how to take care of the land they're standing on. Secondly, we need to teach our youngsters how to put a roof on top of their heads. Number 3, we need to teach our young children how to make clothes for themselves, how to treat themselves or heal themselves using traditional medicines that are out there, of which that must fall under the educational system. We need to also teach them on how to put food on the table, how to be self-reliant in a level whereby they can produce food for themselves.
Yeah.
And all that must be under the educational system. So I've looked around. I believe that nature and human beings are one.
Absolutely.
I believe that nature has its own ways of talking to us. So I believe that nature can also teach us and guide us. Meaning to say, seeing what's happening in Orania, instead of demonizing what Orania is doing there, instead, let us learn from them. How do you build your nation? Self-reliance and central power.
Yeah, I think
what
I
they're
think
doing
you're making
there
a point
is,
there.
I think
Yeah,
they are the perfect example here.
Thank you for that, Emmanuel. And I want to get back to the first part of your thing. I think you're talking about a return to indigenous knowledge that needs to be absorbed into our curriculum. We're having this conversation the other day in regard to food security. We just don't know how to grow our own food, but we had parents and grandparents who knew perfectly well how to do that. And because of the way that we have evolved in this country and the way we've evolved our education system, we don't know those things anymore. But they're really important things to know, and that self-reliance that Emmanuel is talking about, I think we have a lot to learn in terms of that. Moses in Bramley, I'm sorry that I kept you waiting for a little while, Moses. What's your take on the Joburg issue?
The ANC for so many years, they treated the municipalities as a stock file. This is what happens when as a governing party, you take municipalities as a stock sale. You self-service yourself instead of servicing the citizenry of this country. You steal and steal and steal. So this is what happens. People are just stealing. It's time that we need to refresh and think straight when we go to voting, because we need, for so many years, we've given these guys an opportunity to rule this country, but they actually disservices the masses of this country. So I think we need to remove the African National Criminals, ANC, because it's no longer Congress. Now it's African National Criminals. We need to remove these people, and we get credible people who can lead, who can understand that we are here to serve the masses, not self-servicing ourselves.
All right, Moses,
this is
thank
what
you.
must happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that call. Tell me, do you agree with Moses or not? Very strong opinions there on the issue of the African National Congress and what he feels it's failed to achieve over the years. I'm going to take a last call before we go to news from Mweketsi in Alberton on Triple BEE. Good morning, Mweketsi.
Good morning, my sister, and good morning to the host and Mr. Khanki.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to check with Mr. Khanki that are we really honest in terms of having a reflection of the kind of leadership that we have and government spend? Because Triple BEE is driven by black people, but it's empowering the very few who are close and have proximity to power. That's number one. Number two, the Black Business Council, if in every aspect of business growth, we are depending on government. Our government is run by revolutionaries. And we've seen through Africa that they can't manage the economy. And are we really honest to ourselves, to our people, that we will turn the corner on the empowerment process and running the economy that is favoring the majority that lives in the country? Let's put aside white people. Let's take a mirror to ourselves. Are we really honest to our people?
Okay, see, thank you. Sure, that's a question that really makes you stop in your tracks, right, and reflect on how we've managed this. And to be fair, these statistics actually show that there has been the growth of a black middle class. So a lot of people have been pulled out of poverty or the kind of lower middle class economic rung. They've been pulled off that into a higher middle class kind of aspect of the constitution, the economy rather. But the bottom line is it has to be broad-based. That's the nature of Triple BEE, which means that what it should have done by now was empower tens of millions of people in our country. And if we're honest with ourselves, we will be able to say we have not got where we need to be by now. 11 o'clock here on the Daily Discourse. Let's get your latest news right now.
Thank you, Joanne. On the top stories, guests evacuated at the Garden Route National Park due to flooding and 3 police constables shot and killed in Gariega. For SAfm News, I am Lambana, and a very good morning. SANParks says it has evacuated guests at the Garden Route National Park due to flooding. Spokesperson JP Lowe says guests in the wilderness section were relocated to formal accommodation facilities. The North Camp at Ebb and Flow is closed, while the Thyssen Island office in the Knysna section is also closed due to flooding. They have mechanically opened both the Tow and Swartvlei river mouths to manage rising water levels, while the Groote River mouth and Nature's Valley in the Tsitsikamma section opened naturally. The Nature's Valley camp has been closed temporarily due to rain. Lowe says all activities remain suspended and that they are working with the disaster officials in the affected areas. National Police spokesperson Thlenda Mathe has dismissed claims that the lawyers of National Coloured Congress leader Fidel Adams were not informed about his whereabouts during his transfer from Cape Town to Durban. Adams is appearing in the Pinetown Magistrate Court after arriving in KwaZulu-Natal last night. He was arrested in Cape Town on Tuesday. He faces charges of fraud and defeating or obstructing the ends of justice in connection with the murder case of former African National Congress Youth League leader Sindiso Magaqa. Police allege Adams interfered with the investigation after meeting convicted murderer Sibusiso Ngengwa while he was being held at Westville Correctional Centre. Ngengwa confessed to Magaqa's murder and has since been sentenced. Mate elaborates.
All 3 members were declared dead, 2 at the scene and the 3rd after being transported to Kayla Hospital. The identities will be released as soon as next of kin notification is completed. A state-issued firearm was confiscated at the scene. Ballistic analysis will form part of the ongoing investigation.
And back on the weather stories in the Eastern Cape, the Gqoga municipality has urged residents in areas in the Gamtoos Valley to evacuate their homes after the Gqoga Dam exceeded its capacity, posing a serious flood risk to communities. Low-lying areas in the Gamtoos Valley and the Gamtoos Mouth Resort, Kingsway Village, the Big Fish and the Ferry Hotel are at risk of being flooded. Evacuation shelters have been opened at the Katrina Felix Hall at the Luri Community Hall. Farmers have also been urged to urgently relocate livestock, farming equipment, machinery and vehicles to safer areas. Experts have told the BBC they have serious concerns about a growing trend of AI-generated characters promoting fitness programs on social media. A BBC investigation found false and misleading claims about dramatic body transformations, breaching British advertising rules. Recapping the top story, SANParks says it has evacuated guests at the Guardian Route National Park due to flooding. Spokesperson JP Lowe says guests in the wilderness section were relocated to formal accommodation facilities. I'm Lambana for SAfm News Headlines at 11:30.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
You are listening to The Full Circle,
a space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm with Joanne Joseph, unpacking the issues that matter.
5 minutes past 11, and this is the third hour of the Daily Discourse here on SAfm. And of course, we are continuing those conversations with you. We've had some fascinating conversations, and what brilliant opinions we've heard feeding into the show this morning. I really appreciate your calls, and I appreciate your messages and your voice notes. Thank you for sending them in, and for just we're all educating each other. It's a really dynamic environment, and I've loved having these conversations with you over the course of this morning. We have spoken about so many things this morning. One of them has been the city of Joburg, and your voice notes are coming in on that. I'll take a couple in just a short while. Let me just tell you what we are doing in the next half hour. We're going to be speaking to the beloved novelist and playwright and poet Zakes Mda. He's just a multi-talented individual, and actually he was one of my favorite lecturers at university, but also one of my favorite writers. He remains one of my favorite writers, and he was out of the country for a long time, and He's come back for a bit, and it's really lovely to be able to interact with him today. And we're doing so over a story that he wrote that is being made into a film, right? It's got a huge budget that runs into hundreds of millions of rand. And I think this is going to be a really proud moment as we move into Africa Month, and we talk about the stories as Africans that are receptacles of our history and our culture, and important aspects of our lives that have been forgotten, the history of our lives and our struggles that have been forgotten. Every now and then you're just reminded when something like this happens that there are ways of archiving these stories, there are ways of preserving them, and there are ways of presenting them to the world and to the country in ways that we've never seen before. So I'm very excited about speaking to him about that production that is going to start in just a short while. And then we're also getting you an update from the Madlanga Commission at 11:30. We always do that on the show at around 11:30, and we have been carefully watching what's going on behind the scenes, and I will bring you an update on that in just a short while. As I said, continuing to take your calls at this hour. Let's listen in to some of your voice notes on the city of Joburg.
Morning, Joanne. I think lifestyle audits should be done to those who are running City of Johannesburg, including their family, their friends. Then we will know where is the bulk of money going, apart from a so-called collection. Thank you.
Actually, a very good idea there. And then one of you also talking about the informal traders. You know, this is about the traders in the city of Tshwane who were forcibly removed from where they'd been trading for a very, very long time. And we had the city on, and we had an organization called SASA on earlier, not the same as the Social Security Agency, but they look after spaza shop owners. And they were very offended that there was absolutely no communication.
Good morning, Joanne, and morning to the SAfm listeners. It's Mfundo from Durban. Yeah, listening to the justification why they want to keep people impoverished, trying to just make a living. It's actually now evident that why a lot of people believe that apartheid was better than the government that we now have. It's like they really want everyone to live and strive with this 350 that they're providing with no meaningful alternatives. Yeah, it's the country we live in, and it's the people that we've elected to power. It's a shame.
Yeah, it breaks my heart, you know, when you hear about people who are just trying to make an honest living. And you can picture exactly the kind of people who do this. It's mostly middle-aged or elderly women, right? They're trying to put their children through school, or they're looking after their grandchildren, or you know they're sometimes the only breadwinner in the family, and then you take that living away from them without much warning. In the city's defence, it said it did engage them, but those engagements appear to have been very unstructured and very informal. And this organization, SASA, that's looking out for the spaza shop workers, says they didn't actually get anything in writing. There was no sit-down meeting in which they said, this is what we're going to do. So if you're not communicating with people properly, and this is the other thing we sometimes do, we make decisions about people's lives while sitting in our middle class positions or our affluent positions and say, okay, we know what's best for them. I know what's best for that elderly lady. I'll just move her to the mall down the road and she'll be fine. Business will be much better, etc., etc. But you don't actually give her any kind of space to be heard, first of all, and for her to express to you what the difficulties are between you removing her from the place where she's been working for all this time and getting her to a new place where she now has to work. And we do need to consult with people. Making decisions about the lives of people, particularly people who are socioeconomically disempowered, is highly problematic if you are not speaking to those people and hearing from them at the same time, even if your intentions are good. The other thing that we're looking at today, or that we did, it actually came through a wonderful call where a teacher phoned from a library saying, you know, he's watching children in different language groups hang out together and develop a kind of factionalism in that school that is really bothering him. And it's because, you know, well-intentioned though it is, giving pupils the chance to be able to learn in their mother tongues means that sometimes you end up separating them along the lines of language. And what does that actually mean? And can it have damaging consequences in other ways in terms of cohesion?
Morning, Joanne. My input on the issue of multiple language or languages that we have in this country is that we've been having this issue and this problem ever since the inception of democracy, whereby we only dream and scream and politic and make speeches about this language thing, but the government is doing nothing. I was told by my school teachers, a couple of them, that I needed to speak English with my children at home in order for them to be able to understand or to communicate better at school. Mind you that now the very same teachers or the very same schools don't have the proper teachings of the mother tongues. So now you ask yourself if ever we are ever going to have these languages represented in this country, or is it just a paper thing?
Gosh, it really is a catch-22. We'll keep having that conversation, and I'm sure we'll be able to find a more structured way to do that, to give you the space to express your opinions on that. 11 minutes past 12, and the literary website Brittle Paper recently told us about a musical drama about jazz legends, Miriam Makeba and Hugh Masekela, that's about to be turned into a multi-million rand international production by Studio Canal. These jazz greats are a huge part of the musical history of our country. They remind us of a time when jazz was arguably a kind of liberation during the dark times of apartheid. And this is part of what we are referring to and we are recalling during this African month here on SAfm. Now, one of the most interesting aspects of this story was how the production began. Beloved South African novelist, poet, playwright Zakes Mda and Michael Bronner collaborated on the original idea, leading to this production called The Road Home. Zakes Mda joins us now to speak about his contribution. Zakes, good morning to you, and it's such a joy to have you with us. Thank you very much for making yourself available for this conversation, and congratulations. This sounds like a remarkable project to have worked on. Please talk us through the origins of the story that led to this production.
Oh, hello, Joanne. I'm very happy to be in your program.
Oh, thank you for being with us.
Well, I actually wrote the initial script almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago, Hugh was still alive.
Yes.
And he asked me to write the story. He came to my house in Athens, Ohio, which is where I was living at the time, and we spent a week there talking about this story. Initially, he didn't want this to be his story. He wanted it to be about Trevor Huddleston, the Anglican priest.
Right. This was the Anglican priest, of course, who had played a part in spotting the young Hugh Masekela, who was this brilliant trumpeter, and getting his story out to the world by getting him overseas, I understand.
Yes, but even initially, by getting him a trumpet and forming a high school band where, Hugh Masekela, Jonas Gwangwa, and a few other musicians who became very famous later. That's where they started their music careers. And Hugh was very grateful to Father Huddleston and felt that a movie should be made about him. So I wrote the story, I researched the story, went to England, tracing the roots of Huddleston, and wrote the script with which he was very happy. And of course, the Hugh Masekela Foundation was highly involved in all that process. But then the production houses those days, felt that they wouldn't be able to sell that story because people did not know who Trevor, their prospective audiences do not know who Trevor Huddleston was. And also, of course, his role and so on in the struggle and all. They felt that a movie that would sell is a movie that is centered around Hugh Masekela. Hugh Masekela resisted that because initially, you know, he didn't want a movie about himself. But then later on, of course, he was later convinced to go along with that idea.
Right. Did you at this point introduce the Miriam Makeba storyline? How did that become part of the project?
Well, I mean, I've read and heard people saying this is a biopic of Miriam Makeba. It is not. It's really the story of Hugh Masekela, also focusing a lot on his interaction with Paul Simon and that famous Graceland tour, and of course the political conflicts of the time, and how, you know, the ANC, the anti-apartheid movement demonstrated against that tour. That's where the central conflict is. But of course, Miriam Makeba features in the movie. Why? Because she featured in Hugh Masekela's life as a lover and later a wife, but also as somebody who participated in the Graceland tour against the wishes of the anti-apartheid movement and the ANC. So that's where our main conflict lies in this story.
It's fascinating. Brozex, I believe the budget for this film is around 300 million rand, which would make it one of the biggest budgets yet for a South African-inspired film. How important is this kind of investment in stories from our continent?
Well, this, of course, is great because normally the movies we make here are low-budget movies, precisely because of those lack of resources. It is precisely for that reason that the investors in this film insisted that there should be a bankable actor in this movie, because that's what they hope to recoup, you know, whatever investment they've made in the film. Hence, of course, you know, having an international film star to play the role of Miriam Makeba.
Yes.
Initially, they were also insisting that even Hugh Masekela should be played by a so-called bankable actor, by which they mean an actor, you know, from Hollywood or British actor who has a presence in America. But of course, you know, the producers fought very hard to have this main character of the film played by a South African, and then compromised on the Miriam Makeba part that will get this great Cynthia Erivo.
Yes. How do you feel about it,
that.
Prof? How do you feel about it? I'm just wondering, because I've listened to what she said about it. She seems to be approaching this with a great deal of respect. She has a history in this continent in the sense that she's of Nigerian British descent. How do you feel about someone of that background playing a South African great?
Well, I mean, as I said, this is not Miriam Makeba's story. It's Hugh Masekela's story, number one. Number two, is a great, you know, compromise that had to be made because this is not our money. Money comes from elsewhere. And it comes with a demand that for us investors in this movie to recoup whatever we are investing, we need to have a bankable actor. And to have this African actor, of course, British African, is not only is it a great compromise, she is herself a wonderful actor in the first instance, but also with a great voice, a great singer. You see, so if we don't have that bankable actor, then we don't have the money as well. And if you insist that everybody there must be South African who plays that role, then bring South African money in it. But then, even with South African money, to get an international agent who will sell that movie overseas, international agents will also demand what they call a bankable actor.
Very
so
much
we
so.
must learn that we live in a world, in a community, in an international community. That is why Thuso Mbedu can play a role of an American in America, competing against American actors there. It's because we are part of that international community.
I mean, it's also interesting that the film is going to be releasing in multiple international locations. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, New Zealand, several other countries have been mentioned. How important is it to keep putting these stories, our African stories, in front of these audiences? Because it looks as though they need convincing, as do the big production houses, that our stories have value in the public domain that transcends simply race or nationality.
Exactly. That's why I think, we storytellers want our stories to be out there in the world, you see. And it is very important that we are part of that world community. We market ourselves in the world markets itself to us as well. There's that interchange of ideas and also of resources and of personnel that is happening today. And we cannot say, no, our stories. This is not even our stories 100%. It is the story of America as well, the story of Paul Simon, the story of Graceland, the story of apartheid, anti-apartheid campaigns, the story of those who defied those campaigns, the consequences, and so on. It's an international story.
True. Can I ask you about the issue of novel writing? That's sort of an adjacent question to what I've just asked about Brazeks, because you've been teaching in South Africa for decades. You then go overseas, you lecture there, and you do a lot of your writing internationally as well. And I think South African writers are really struggling to get the stories from home out to the rest of the world. We do not have the channels. Sometimes we don't have the training or the development editing that is required to just get us through to the next level that would enable us to fly as international figures in the world of literature or film. I mean, have you, having lived here and overseas, found that there are pathways through which South African creatives can do this with greater ease?
Yes, but then, in fact, there are many people in South Africa might not know that. There are many South African writers whose stories are out there in the world. Stories like writers like Nick Mhlongo, for instance, you'll find that, or Fred Khumalo, they have their novels translated into many different languages. I myself, my books have been translated into 30 languages or so, in Estonian, Korean. Just this last year, 3 of my novels were translated into Mandarin, and I was there to launch them.
Fantastic.
In other words, our literature is read out there in the world. Of course, we need more writers to be translated, but I'm just giving you these examples that perhaps may not be known here at home, that our works are read out there. They've been translated, into many, many languages. Like I'm saying, my own into almost 30 languages or even more. I would have to count those languages to know the exact number.
That is wonderful to hear. That's a great problem to have, Brazeks. But I must ask you a question about importing stories from other parts of the world to South Africa, and I'm simply talking about this because you overlap a number of different areas, and film is one of them. But the idea of bringing fantastic international stories to South Africa to be made here, because we have an environment that really lends itself to very many different backdrops, to many different types of film, and we have the skills in this country to be able to put that together, to not only to have it shot here, but to have it edited here and prepared for broadcast, essentially, and transmission in different formats. Are we actively marketing ourselves as a destination where other people's stories can be made in South Africa?
Well, I would say we are marketing ourselves adequately, but I can tell you that there are many movies that are shot here, international movies that have nothing to do with South Africa at all. A lot of the movies set in some American city, for instance, are shot in Cape Town rather than in New York or on location there. The reason being simply that we have, as you say, we have the sceneries, we had great sets, but we also have the personnel. Yes. We have great crews, and therefore quality work is able to be produced here. But even in animation, we have animation studios in Johannesburg, in Cape Town, a little bit in Durban, but mostly Johannesburg and Cape Town. Then you ask us, how come we have all these animation studios when in South Africa we don't have our own animation industry? But these studios are very busy. Busy with what? Busy doing with a lot of animation for the overseas market. Even for the American market, a lot of American animation is done here in South Africa, you see. So we are telling stories, and we are using our facilities, we are using our personnel, our crews to bring in a lot of foreign exchange into South Africa by having those overseas countries tell their stories here.
Prof. Zakes, so good speaking to you after quite a while, and it's been lovely to hear your positive take on everything that is happening in the country, but also that instances of where we are exporting our talent and our content abroad, but also bringing it back into the country so that there's a real exchange of creative ideas across the continents. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was a beloved South African novelist, poet, playwright, and painter. I didn't say painter either, Professor Zakes Mda, speaking to us about the story that he conceived that is now being turned into a multi-million rand feature. The principal photography is going to start in Cape Town in June. So I think this is a wonderful initiative that he's brought this work home. He's created it at home. He's brought this work home. He's traveled the world to be able to research the story, and it's being expanded into an entire feature. So this is really exciting. But he's also made an important point about the talent that exists in the country. And the skill set that exists in the country. We don't market ourselves sufficiently as an international destination for film, for animation. One of the other things that we do actually need to have a conversation about is how virtual reality is coming to play a role in film, and how many virtual facilities are being built in South Africa. I visited one a few weeks ago and I shot there, and it really is astounding how much one saves from a budgetary point of view, but also all the skills that you can now create in that industry, so long as you make sure they're not disrupted by AI, how you can keep those businesses going and start to grow them in a country like ours, because the skill sets are there and we just need to concentrate on building them. Lovely hearing there from Zakes Mda. We'll take a short break now for the news bulletin, and then when we come back, we'll bring you more on the Madlanga Commission.
Thank you, Joanne. On the news headlines, the Joint Operations Centre says disaster and emergency officials, together with the SANDF, will begin with evacuation operations for residents cut off by flood waters throughout the Guardian Route and Little Karoo region today. 2 men have been killed and another man wounded in a drive-by shooting at Pontiavel on the Cape Flats, and health officials from various countries are working to trace passengers who left a cruise ship before a deadly hantavirus outbreak was confirmed. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two athletes at the height of their powers fight for more than victory. They fight for the fight itself. Zakir Badat, 8 wins, all finishes. Zico Makangela, 5 wins, 5 knockouts. Champion and former champion collide in Africa's biggest welterweight championship fight. EFC 133, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
Right, we're taking your calls and your messages on our studio line and our WhatsApp line, so make use of that. We'll be continuing those conversations in a moment, but I want to first tell you about what has happened at the Madlanga Commission today. Can you believe we've hit day 103 of the Commission? Former Hawks member Jacobus Prinsloo has been testifying. Advocate Mpilo Sikagane is the evidence leader. Now, Prinsloo, as a new witness, went through his career history. First of all, he was asked whether Major General Lesetja Senona, the KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head at the time, was aware of the unit that Prinsloo belongs to. Prinsloo indicated that when given orders by a head, you have to obey because there's a strict command structure within the police service. Prinsloo also indicated that he was based at the DPCI office in Port Shepstone since 2004. This is a rented office from Mr. Khanmisa. Prinsloo detailed the layout of the Hawks building in Port Shepstone and the security of the building. He even described the surrounding businesses with aerial shots. He said the building had a universal code for workers, so you couldn't tell who used it to enter. But the building had an alarm system that was not connected to armed response and had electricity backup in place. The building had 18 staff altogether. There were 4 admin staff and 14 operatives, but only the 14 Hawks officials had access to a padlocked gate. The reception at the Hawks building was not manned, according to him. He says this is the building where the drugs that were retrieved at the harbour were brought. There were 999 blocks of 1 kilogram cocaine bricks. Can you believe that amount? If you recall, on Tuesday, Major General Hendrik Flynn, a component head for serious organised crime at the Hawks, testified about the 2021 theft of cocaine at the Port Shepstone offices. There was a theft of 541 kilograms of cocaine at that office. Now, the claim was made that the thieves had gained entry into the Hawks building through the hardware shop, but that building is now housing the Department of Human Settlements. So Prinsloo detailed the layout of the buildings around the office at the time of the break-in in 2021. The drugs were apparently kept in room 22, which was a safe, and the keys were handed to Brigadier Newswa as the provincial commander based in Durban. They didn't complete the form that would demonstrate that the keys were handed over officially. Prinsloo was in charge of the building in Port Shepstone as the unit head at the time. The Commission asked Prinsloo today about a drugs consignment that was stored at the same facility 3 years earlier but did not go missing. Prinsloo said they had taken down a drug lab with 2 million Mandrax tablets, and he arranged 24-hour security for this once it was brought to the building. He then went on to say that Brigadier Msizi Nyoswa should have arranged security for this drug consignment, referring to the cocaine consignment, of course. He says he could not provide security due to a lack of staff and a lack of being able to establish how long the drugs would be on site. Prinsloo says the alarm system they had was not attached to an armed response security company as before, when they had a contract with a monthly contribution of 541 Rand. That apparently expired in March 2020. So that is proceeding in Pretoria as we speak.
You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAfm.
Right, as I said, we're taking your calls and your messages. One of you listening to our interview a little bit earlier on between a representative of the ANC in the Joburg region and a representative of Action SA, also in this region, talking about the issue of the city of Joburg and allegations that Helen Zille made yesterday that the city is now bankrupt. And some of your voice notes came in earlier talking about that issue.
Good morning, Joanne. I just want to share my thoughts with regards to the conversation you had a few minutes ago with your panel of guests. A very sobering conversation between the two, or I would call it more of a debate of both political parties campaigning. And, I'm an ANC member in good standing, a full ANC member. But I do want to say that felt like a campaign promo. on both sides, right? In my honest opinion. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Daniel, thank you for your thoughts on that. I think maybe we will see more election debates coming up to the 4th of November. One of you says, I think the ANC knows soon they will be out and the DA takes over in Joburg. This is just a goodbye handshake to Joburg Metro employees. And let's listen to one of your voice notes on the issue of the wage increase of over 10 billion, that was put aside for municipal workers.
SAfm, JJ, Joanne. Let's go to this municipal workers increase every time, every month increase. I don't understand where the workers and the union, as per their scrutiny of the finances, think municipal is going to have the money. As they know that many people are on a welfare state at a little bit money that they are getting, they are not able to pay tax. And where is the money going to come from? Sometimes even them, they don't even pay some services. Many people are not paying services because they don't have money. Where is this increase going to come from? Thank you very much. Makoto Koto Stan Durban.
Thank you so much for that. I heard the rooster in the background as well. I think this is going to come from Treasury, and that's just the way it has to be. The city doesn't have the means to foot that kind of bill, so it will obviously, part of it will come from the revenue that they collect, and they're claiming that they're up to 84% collection now in terms of revenue, so they seem to be more optimistic. The ANC does anyway. And then one of you also spoke about the issue earlier of the English, actually it was languages in general, and a teacher said that he doesn't like the idea of children being separated according to the languages they're studying because it's causing division, and so he wanted a change in that. And I want to listen to some of your voice notes. Some of you have been suggesting that English may be the answer. Are we taking a step forward or back if English is the compromise?
SAfm and the listener, this thing I've talked about it like in 2024, yes, to see like even at the rural school, like those teachers, since they came from the colleges, and obviously they know English, they must just to enter the premises of the school, each and every children must supposed to be like maybe responding in English, talk to each other with English so that they can teach themselves from the young age on the ground level before they go into the university and so on and so on.
Thank you, Mpatlele, for that. Let's take some of your calls. Churchill in the Eastern Cape is standing by. What's your take on the ANC, Churchill?
Yes, my sister. Look, I think as we're going towards the local government elections, I think the most critical question that we need to ask ourselves as South Africans is, are we voting for loyalty to political parties or are we voting for services? That is very critical. When you look at the political parties like the ANC, they've been tried and tested. South Africans should be yearning for a change, something new. Because when you look at how the ANC has conducted its business, it has been proven that the ANC is not going to change. The revelations in the recent commissions, the Zondo Commission, the Madlanga Commission, accused number one is the ANC. Now, that's what you call the organizational renewal. It's just a pipe dream. There are many who have tried to say, look, let's rather try to be inside the ANC and try to change the ANC. But how many have perished who have tried to make things right in the ANC? Because the level where they are, they even kill each other. You look at the arrogance of the leaders who feel now that they're entitled. I'll cite few examples. For instance, recently there was a reckless statement that was made by Kwedi Mantashe on a very sensitive issue of unemployment amongst the youth in South Africa.
Oh, yes.
You remember?
Yes.
Another one, Panyaza Lusuf, look at the crisis of water in Joburg. How could you even say, I can afford to go to a hotel?
Yeah.
All the time you're doing damage control. These are reckless statements. Now, this happens when leaders feel now that they're entitled. They've been there for quite some time. We need change. Because South Africans need to wake up and say that They need to vote for services. It's time.
Churchill, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those thoughts with us so eloquently. Bonakele in Cape Town, do you agree with what Churchill's just said?
Hi, Joanne. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm so well, thanks. What's your take on the ANC?
Look, there's one thing that I need clarity with regard to this ANC. I see people are being so emotional, especially when we're going to the polls. You understand? ANC must be taken out. ANC failed. ANC is arrogant. ANC didn't do well. But here comes a time where on the 4th of November, it's going to be these municipal elections. This is one and only time that people must show that they hate the ANC. They must show the ANC it completely failed. So the only time to do that, not to come on radio and be angry as they are and saying whatever they want to say about the ANC. The only time. So I'm inviting them. I've said this on Mhlobo Wenene as well.
Yes.
One and only time to take the ANC out. Go to the polls and vote for the party of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I also don't understand, I need a clarity with regard to the Government of National Unity. Government of National Unity is almost 3 years, if not 4 years. Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
So to blame the ANC for this past 3-4 years, that's something that I cannot understand. It is about this Government of National Unity, who is actually failing at this point in time. If people of this country doesn't understand, want to accept, they fail. But one and only thing that I'm asking them to do, go to the polls. Even all the metros, ANC must fail. Vote for the party of your choice, but not come on radio and say, but you can say whatever that you want to say. It's your views. But as long as they don't go out and vote for the party of their choices, there's absolutely nothing they can do. But for me personally, it's not a secret. I vote the ANC until I die. Today is my birthday. I'm happy and going around as I'm talking to you. I'm 61 years of age.
Yes,
to
I
show
remember
that I'm a grown-up someone. Anyway, have a nice one and God bless.
You have a great birthday, Bonakele. I hope you really enjoy it. Wishing you good health and a wonderful year ahead. And thank you for sharing your opinion with us as well. And I think what Bonakele is saying is really important about using the ballot box as effectively as we can. This is one way that we really get to make our voices heard very loudly as citizens. And Churchill before him talking about the issue of, well, either you have the ANC or you have a working system, and those things should not be mutually exclusive, right? When the ANC talks about renewal, it has the opportunity to turn the state or turn whatever level at which it's governing into a meritocracy, right? And it doesn't mean that there is any single party in South Africa that cannot do that. You just have to be committed to merit and to making sure that you're delivering for the people. Wonga in the Eastern Cape, what do you think about this Joburg finance issue?
Good morning, Joanne. Good morning to your viewers. Joanne, if you look at the report when it comes from the National Parliament, from the Minister, then it was read or outlined by. That is the true reflection of what is happening in Johannesburg. If you look at cash hand on hand, which is about 3.9 billion versus the outstanding of 23 billion, Johannesburg is cash strapped, and it's cash strapped because of the ANC. It's high time people must go out and vote for the Democratic Alliance, whom it has shown in Mid-Val, it has shown in Cape Town that wherever it delivers better and then delivers for all. That is the reality. We may come to your radio and then say A, B, and Z. The bottom line, on the 4th of November, we must not vote all these Molanyana parties because we will be dividing the fraction of a vote. Let's go out there and then vote the Democratic Alliance so that we can take the ANC out of power. Then the people of South Africa can start enjoying what they are born to be enjoying after the democracy. That is going to help us.
Wonga, I just have one quick question to ask you, which is, you mentioned earlier that the DA delivers for all. There are many people living in DA-run areas who say the DA certainly doesn't deliver for all, it delivers for the privileged. How do you feel about that?
Someone who's saying it doesn't deliver for all stays in Khayelitsha, maybe the ward councillor for Khayelitsha is an ANC ward council, stays in Matatiela like me, maybe the ward councillor for Matatiela is an ANC councillor. That's where the difference is. They must make sure that they vote the DA all out to govern all out. Then they will see the difference.
All right.
That is
Thank
a fact.
you.
It's
Thank you,
proven.
Wanda. Thank you so much for that. We'll leave that there. Thank you for expressing your opinion so passionately. Let's take a call from Dumile in Kugompo. You want to talk about the issue of the language discrepancies, Dumile. Good morning.
Good morning, Joanne. I wanted to talk something about, the issue of language. If someone like me who stays in a farm, you find you have different animals with different patterns, be it from their songs or their color patterns or the way they build their houses. Now you find all these structures are unique, They don't force each other to live in a specific way. But for some reason, we black people, we are the only one who say we are the birds, we don't want to sing our own tune. We want actually to sing the tunes of other birds. I mean, if you go to all great nations, from Britain to Russia to India, those people are all creating using their own natural languages because it's a frequency that is natural to them, that they use to understand nature and interact with nature. It's one with them and nature. But the minute you distance your brain frequency from your own language, it means all of a sudden you have to adapt. Of course, you can adapt, but it means now you have to change your structure to think in a certain way. Now you have to think double when you think about issues. If you think about certain calculations, you have to first take them from another language to another language, which is your language. And then that whole process takes quite some time.
Yes,
yes,
it
now,
does.
I don't understand why people find it easy. It's nice to speak English. Yes, it's fine. But there's a limitation when you don't speak your language. I hope people can understand that.
That's true.
And musicians can understand that very well, that life works in frequencies. And all humans are created with certain frequencies, and language is part of that.
How do you, Dumile, the difficulty that was raised by the librarian is that in a school situation, yes. I mean, I completely agree with you, and I think that teacher would have agreed with you too. But yeah, the separation between the people is that's where the difficulty may come in.
Yes. You see, when parents fail to deal with the hearts of their children, train their children to love each other, then you get kids who say they don't like the kids from another village, then they stab each other with pangas and knives because adults have failed to play their role.
Yeah.
And then they want to be technical on larger issues. Language is a large issue. You can't manage it simply like that and say cancel it because certain kids are not yet matured to make that decision that they must not like each other because they speak different languages.
Yeah, we need to
adults
must
come in and deal with the hearts of the kids and the psyche of the kids.
That's true. Thank you so much for your call, Dumile. That's a lovely call. Thank you. I'll take one or two of your voice notes before we wrap up on the show. Let's listen to these voice notes on the city of Joburg.
Morning, SAfm. SAfm, I've got a question. Why is it always we have black people leaving ANC or any black party to DA, the National Party, but you never have a white man leaving DA to join any of the black political parties? Why is it like that? Why is it always like that? No white man leaving National Party to join a black political party. Why?
Good morning, Joanne and the listeners. Joanne, the problem of Joburg is a problem of South Africa, right up to the highest positions. We love people too much. We don't want to fire them. We have commissions and investigations and suspensions. The Labor Relations Act, the union. In America, we criticize Trump. How many times have we seen how Trump fires people for no reason? And look at America's economy. This is the problem in South Africa. Until we start getting rid of people, even if you're not 100% sure that person is dishonest, we can't forever say, but they've got rights, they need to be suspended, and then we need to investigate. Nothing is happening. People must look after their own jobs. You don't do what you're supposed to be doing, even if you're not 100% wrong, you're fired.
Oh, He sounds like someone on The Apprentice. but thank you. No, thank you for sharing those opinions. It's been so good chatting to you today. That is unfortunately where we wrap up the Daily Discourse. We're bringing you the daily book reading next, in which you'll hear an excerpt of Unfair Way by Jerry Dlepu. They'll be followed by your midday news and the fantastic Sakina Kamwenda on Update at noon. We'll be back with our Friday edition of the Daily Discourse tomorrow. Till then, from the team and me, Joanne Joseph, take care. Goodbye.
SAfm's award-winning drama department presents to you another episode of the book The Unfair Way, The Untold History of South African Black Golf, written by Jerry Dlepu, read by Simpiwe Kwana. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
In the Western Province, there is frequent mention of caddies playing with the seasoned players at tournaments and acquitting themselves well. Some soon became fully fledged golfers, capable to play with the experienced golfers who have been playing before them. They played exceptionally well. Some, in fact, played even better than the golfers they had caddied for. Chapter 3: The Unmarked Land. While it was relatively easy to construct a soccer pitch, the same could not be said about a golf course. The sport, with one of the smallest balls, needs acres of land for a proper course. Back then, whatever land was available for a possible golf course development belonged to either the government, a farmer, a white property owner, or a mine. In townships, if land with potential for golf course construction was available, soccer pitches or playgrounds were instead erected, as these were not difficult or expensive projects. Creating a proper golf course, on the other hand, was and still is a difficult and expensive project, as it requires, among other things, engaging experts from different fields. In addition, the trees on the course must be properly planted according to the design of the course. For this, an expert in golf course design will also be roped in. The development of the Athlone Golf Club in the Western Province in the early 60s is one such example indicative of the expenses of such a project. A historical record of the development of that course by the Western Province Non-White Golf Union states in part about the expenses. By 1964, work on the new course at Athlone had started and 4 greens had been laid. The budget had by now gone up to 53,000 rands. This did not include money for the clubhouse, which was still not fully funded, and appeals were being made to the white clubs for donations as quoted in the Cape Argus. Construction of the veld golf courses. Like all other aspects of South African people's lives under apartheid, golf was not immune to the policies of the South African government, as it became a victim of forced removals. Sophiatown, together with the Western Native Township and Nuclear, had a sizable number of golfers. Among them was a teacher, Roni Ditsebe, businessmen M. Boyce, and the 3 Mazibuko brothers, Fiver, Johnny, and Percy. Being surrounded by golf courses such as Windsor, CMR, and Country Club, golf was very popular with the golfers of these 3 townships. On weekends, they played at the Bobby Jones Club. The Bobby Jones Club was first situated at Western Native Township, but later moved to Nuclear, a relocation episode itself reflective of the times. For perspective, a South African website, history.saga.co.za, reflects as follows about the situation at the time. In the days when golf courses in and around Johannesburg on which non-white golfers played were little more than stretches of open veld, it was announced that a new non-European golf course called Bobby Jones Golf Club was to be officially opened on the Sunday morning at the old racecourse, Nuclear. The Bobby Jones Club had obviously been forced to move from the site that they occupied in the pre-war years. What is known for sure is that black golfers whose families were removed from these townships had joined the new golf clubs that were fast being established in Soweto. As in Sophia Town, felt golf courses started mushrooming in Soweto. Significantly, the Temple of Golf, as Alexander was known, was also affected by the forced removals, as some of residents of that internationally known township were moved to Soweto and Tembisa. Affected golfers then joined the golf courses which were being established or already existed in their new townships. Over time, one of these new township golf courses, the Pimville Golf Club, would rate as one of the toughest courses around Soweto. At the same time, some recreational facilities such as the horse racetrack and tennis courts came into being, developed by one of the oldest political activists, James Sofasong Kempanza, thereby presenting a sports complex with a unique layout consisting of 3 different sporting codes. Further afield, the 18-hole Peter Thompson golf course, named after the famous Australian player who had won the then British Open multiple times, was situated on farmland in Meadowlands, Soweto. What remains a puzzle is how the fell courses were designed. In fact, it is a misnomer to use the word design. Courses play out of a par, that is, a predetermined number of strokes per number of holes on the course. On a standard 18 holes golf course, a par for the course is determined by the number of strokes that one must execute. Depending on the length of the par, maybe 70, 71, 72, or 73. A standard golf course consists of 10 par 4, 4 par 3, as well as 4 par 5 holes. There may be a slight variation depending on the length and the topography of its specific location. Most courses stretch between 5.5 and 7.5 kilometers. A par 3 is short, mostly 100 to 250 meters. A par 4 medium, 300 to 420 meters. And a par 5 long, most are more than 440 meters in length. Anyway, the fact is that courses were constructed, but there was no uniform method of construction written in the manual. It was more a matter of innovation. A question that still begs for an answer is, how did the black golf course designers measure the distance of the different holes to decide on their pars? They could not have had the proper equipment to do so, except for measuring through walking and counting one's steps, as their grandfather did when measuring their farms in the olden days. Undoubtedly, this would have been a difficult exercise when creating a par 5 hole. An own recollection is that this was done by asking a good golfer to hit a ball with a driver. Back then, a driver was called a wood, followed with a fairway wood and another, a short iron, to the green would give them a par 5. A driver and a mid-iron, 3 to 7 irons, would establish a par 4. Of course, this would not be a reliable method as other golfers are average hitters. The golfer's green is constructed by digging a circular surface, removing grass and pouring oil to prevent weeds and grass from growing. Sand was added on the green to make it soft and elevated. Blacks were content with playing on their less than standard courses without any protest or gripes, since there was nothing better for them. Authorities at some well-established courses used to allow caddies to play on Mondays or Fridays. And so, those who started as caddies were fortunate in that they could play on either of the 2 days, and for this, unlike the non-caddy working golfers, they had an advantage of playing on proper golf courses, albeit occasionally. Away from the proper courses that were always well manicured, it was a real challenge to play on the black golf courses which were overgrown with grass. Players on these courses regularly lost a lot of time searching for a golf ball in the long grass, thereby delaying the game. There were also instances of players coming across snakes while searching for a ball. Worse still, when rain fell heavily on occasion, the sand greens would be waterlogged and the course would be also flooded. In winter, the course would go up in flames after township youths set fire to the grass.
There was another episode of The Unfair Way, The Untold History of South African Black Golf, written by Jerry Lepu, read by Simpiwe Kwana. The book is available at the Bridge Bookstore. It is broadcast on SAfm at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on the Daily Discourse. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patal, read by Simpiwe Kwana, production by Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
It's just after 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 7th of May, 2027. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAfm. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour,
who as such prosecutes for and on behalf of the state alleges that you're guilty of 1, defeating or obstructing the administration of justice.
the National Coloured Congress leader and Member of Parliament Fadil Adams is facing charges of fraud and defeating the ends of justice in KZN. And
South Africans are within their right to protest against the spiraling illegal immigration challenge, but violence linked to those protests in the past is not acceptable.
A minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, has condemned the viral circulation of fake videos and images falsely claiming to depict attacks on foreign nationals in South Africa. Coming up in sport,
Orlando Pirates fans continue to live in hope. I'll explain what all of last night's results meant. And Arsenal and PSG in the Champions League final.
John Gericke. Good news in the second half of the show. In the meantime, let us know what's on your mind. 41391, that's the SMS line number. It is charged at 150 per SMS. You can also write to us via X at SABC News Radio _radio, or you can send us a voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Thursday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, here's the latest news with Onde Lambana.
Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, evacuation operations to begin in the Garden Route and 2 men killed in a shooting in the Cape Flats. For SAfm News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good day. The Joint Operations Centre says disaster and emergency officials together with the SANDF will begin with evacuation operations for residents cut off by flood waters throughout the Garden Route and Little Karoo region today. Several roads in the region remain closed due to flooding, making areas inaccessible. Communities living close to mountainous areas and near rivers are the worst affected. Sakri Chetty reports.
Disaster officials say helicopters are being deployed to the affected areas in the Oudtshoorn, Kannaland, George and Beto municipal areas. They will assess what's happening on the ground and deliver food parcels where access has been cut off by floods. Relief and shelter efforts are continuing across the district, with around 500 people housed in community halls after being affected by the rain and floods. Several roads and passes remain closed. Power challenges still remain in some areas, while sewage infrastructure has also been affected.
In the Eastern Cape, the Gouga local municipality has called on residents living in low-lying areas to evacuate after the Gouga Dam exceeded full capacity. The areas include Kingsway Village, Big Fish and Gamtoosmouth Resort. Gouga Municipality Mayor Hatting Bonman has called on residents to exercise extra caution.
Huge floods are expected, and we are asking residents to please remain indoors, remain safe, and if needs be, and evacuation is needed, you can go to our community halls in Luri and Thornhill and surrounding areas. This is obviously a massive blessing, the rains, but with this huge storm water damage is caused all over the place, and our teams have been working throughout the night to make sure that roads are accessible and that our residents and infrastructure are safe.
2 men have been killed and another man wounded in a drive-by shooting at Bontierville on the Cape Flats. Police spokesperson Tembakazi Mpendukana says officers were driving in the area last night when they stumbled upon an active shooting scene on the corner of Kiat Street and Yakalsvlei Avenue.
The members quickly chased after a silver Toyota Etios that had suspects who were shooting at the victims. After a lengthy chase, they found the car abandoned in another street and the suspects had fled on foot. They searched the car and found a 9mm pistol. It is reported that the car was carjacked in Athlone and the 9mm pistol was also stolen in Athlone. No arrest has been made yet, and anyone with information that might help with the investigation is kindly requested to contact Crime Stop on 08600 10111.
The Madlanga Commission has heard the Hawks offices in Port Shepstone from where 541 kilograms of cocaine was stolen in 2021 were used for administration purposes and operated during working hours. This according to retired Hawks member Lieutenant Colonel Jacobus Prinsloo, who took the stand this morning. He has testified that the Port Shepstone Hawks offices operated between 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. weekdays and would normally be closed on the weekends.
There was a serviced electric fence around the perimeter fence, save for the part which was bordering the liquor authority. Obviously, when there was load shedding, the electric fence would not work. The office had no generator or electric backup. There was no cameras or beams outside the office. Further, there was no alarm system monitoring movement on the outside or exterior of the building.
Health officials from various countries are working to trace passengers who left a cruise ship before a deadly hantavirus outbreak was confirmed. The Dutch government says there is an ongoing urgent search for about 40 passengers who disembarked the MV Hondius in St. Helena in the South Atlantic before the outbreak was reported. 3 European tourists have died from the illness and several people have been evacuated to receive special medical care in Europe and Johannesburg. The ship is now heading for Spain's Canary Islands. The BBC's Guy Hedgecourt has the details.
There are now infectious disease specialists on board the boat, along with some members of staff from the World Health Organization. They are testing and assessing the passengers as they make their way here to the Canary Islands. And when they arrive here at the weekend, they will undergo further tests after docking here, and then the authorities will decide if they're given the all clear, what happens to them.
Recapping the top story, the Joint Operations Centre says disaster and emergency officials, together with the SANDF, will begin with evacuation operations for residents cut off by floodwaters throughout the Guardian Route and Little Karoo region today. I'm Ondalambana for SAfm News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks so much, Ondela. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 8 minutes after 12 on this Thursday afternoon. Appreciate you tuning in to Update at noon. Well, I can tell you that there is currently a court case underway, and this is, of course, the National Coloured Congress leader Fadil Adams appearing in a court in Pinetown. And, of course, we're going to start that off by just playing for you the charges as were read out by the state prosecutor in terms of what Fadil Adams has been charged with. And then we will take you to court as I look across to the screen, and he's just, his attorney is taking instruction from him. But let's quickly bring you up to speed just in terms of the charges he faces.
At all relevant times, you presented yourself and gave out the impression to the aforesaid members as being on official duties as a member of Parliament. Consequently, members of the South African Police Services, members of the eThekwini Metro Police and others arranged for an official escort for the accused from King Shaka International Airport to Westville Correctional Centre and back to King Shaka International Airport. Whereas, without any authorization from the investigating team, legal representatives of the inmate who was in custody awaiting trial or officially mandated by Parliament, you visited the Westville Prison Correctional Centre in the absence of the legal representative and conducted an interview with the inmate, Mr. Bonginkosi Anthony Dlamini, video recorded such interview using your cellular phone whilst inside an office of the said correctional centre. Mr. Bonginkosi Dlamini was at the time an accused in a partly heard and sub judice court trial in the matter of State versus Bonginkosi Dlamini and 4 others, appearing at the Pinetown Regional Court. Whereas, without any authorization from the investigating team, legal representatives of the inmate who was in custody awaiting trial, nor officially mandated by Parliament, you visited the Westville Correctional Centre and, in the absence of your legal representative, conducted an interview with Mr. Sibusiso Ngwenga, audio recorded such interview using your cellular phone whilst inside the office of the Correctional Centre, and obtained a sworn statement from Mr. Sibusiso Ngwenga, who at the time was an accused in a partly heard matter and sub judice in the trial of S versus Bonella Mayeza and 2 others, involving the killing of Mr. Sindiso Mokaka, which matter was appearing in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Therefore, the Director of Public Prosecutions KwaZulu-Natal, who as such prosecutes for and on behalf of the state, alleges that you are guilty of 1, defeating or obstructing the administration of justice, 2, fraud read with sections 256, 257 and 270 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 as amended, 3, fraud read with sections 256, 257 and 270 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 as amended, 4, fraud read with sections 256, 257 and 270 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 as amended, 5, defeating or obstructing the administration of justice. Those are the counts that you are facing, Mr. Adams. Do you understand?
And that, of course, the state prosecutors and the prosecutors appearing for the state, Advocate Zwele Tumata and Advocate Nogulunga Ngobo. And now, of course, we're going to take you to those proceedings at the Pinetown Court. Adams appearing there, and of course, he is represented by Bruce Hendricks.
As soon as it comes into Cape Town, the court can make an order that within 72 hours, he either surrendered to the members of the PKPP, which is investigating this matter, or at Mitchell's Plain Police Station, or Grassy Park, which is the 2 nearest police stations to his home. He will also abide by any reporting condition which this honourable court may give. Your Worship, the purpose of today's proceedings is not whether to judge the merits of this matter, but it's whether to determine if Mr. Adams will stand trial. And we are in a position to show this court that he indeed will, as it is the court.
Court, please. The name of the court
Thank you. I'll attach this to the charge sheet and mark it as Exhibit A.
Scott, please. I'm really not sure how to approach it now. If I'm correct, they've already brought the appeal application. Instead of responding to the basis of the application for remand, it would appear they have now moved the appeal application. I could be wrong. But maybe on just few aspects, Your Worship. The response of the defense on this matter is rather simplifying the issues. We are not saying we are bringing this application for remand on the basis